Chapter 1425. After chatting for a while, Grandmother Feng said that it was too late and wanted to return to her room to rest. When she went downstairs, a servant came up and brought the medicinal soup that had just been cooked. "Old madam, this is for Mr. Li. Didn't he get injured some time ago? It's good for his health to drink more medicinal soup. Shall I send it up for him now?" Grandmother Feng recalled that Feng Ling had only opened the door once and looked a little cautious. She smiled lightly and said, "There's no need to send him off. It's already so late. It's hard to digest so much soup. Put it in the pot and let him drink it at breakfast tomorrow." The servant was stunned for a moment. When she saw the old lady's understanding expression, she immediately understood and smiled. "All right, I'll put it back first." In the room, Feng Ling's eyes were a little red because of what her grandmother had said, but it was not obvious. When Li Nanheng walked over and saw her standing in front of the door, he walked over and rubbed her head before pulling her into his arms. "I heard what the old lady said. Her heart really aches for you. You should be relieved that you're no longer the little wolf girl who doesn't have a family. You have a family, and your family will love you. Everyone acknowledges your excellence. That's enough." Feng Ling obediently stayed in his arms. After a while she said, "Grandma should know you're here. And then you can sleep here." Li Nanheng raised his brows. Before he could speak, he heard her say, "Remember what you said earlier. Just sleep. Don't move." He chuckled. A week later, Los Angeles. I didn't expect that although the people in the base are all rough men, they actually like children. Little Momo isn't afraid of strangers. When he knew that we were sending him over, he obediently allowed them to tease him. He didn't cry or make a fuss. Grandmother Feng sat in the car leaving the base with a relieved expression. "Momo is young, but she is sensible. I remember that when Leching was also a very sensible child back then. I just don't know what happened to her in the past few years." Grandfather Feng sighed, and then looked back at the base that was getting further and further away. Recently, Li Nanheng's eyes had just recovered. He wanted to drive several times, but was rejected by Feng Ling. On the way, Feng Ling drove while Li Nanheng sat in the passenger seat. Hearing the conversation between the two elders, he said mildly, "The Wen family isn't clean because of the grudges between the older generation. In all these years, the only ones who can be praised are Wen Leching and Wen Linhan, the siblings with different personalities. Now that the two of them are missing, and someone wants to take little Momo away, it's clear that there are many benefits involved. Sigh, this kind of thing is not rare in rich families. I just pity Momo. Everyone grows up in a different environment. It's all arranged by fate. Boys encounter more things when they're young, and they'll be more responsible when they grow up. Don't think too much about it." Madame Feng patted her shoulder. "Look at our Feng Ling. She encountered no less than Momo when she was young. She's so outstanding now." Feng Ling, who was focused on driving, was praised again. She was no longer as uncomfortable as before. Instead, she continued driving calmly and did not answer. Li Nanheng suddenly added, "And so in the future, our child will definitely be as obedient as her." Feng Ling almost stepped on the accelerator as the brake. Her expression instantly changed from calm to strange. The atmosphere between the two elders of the Feng family suddenly fell silent for a few seconds. Then they suddenly burst into laughter. "Then when do the two of you plan to give birth?" That's right. Can't you tell how much we like children? We can dote on little Momo so much. If you quickly give birth to one, we can help you look after the child in the future." Feng Ling. Li Nanheng nodded. "It's not just one. I don't think it's enough to give birth to two. Otherwise, the elders on both sides won't be able to take their turn." Right, then let's give birth to a few more. It's that Jinwan, right? The Mrs. Mo that Feng Ling often mentions to us. Didn't she just give birth to a boy and a girl? I heard that she's pregnant again recently, right? Feng Ling Nanheng, you guys have to work harder. Feng Ling, are you sure you want to return to High City before getting married? Li Nanheng glanced at the booked flight time and venue on his phone and hugged Feng Ling, who had just spoken to Jinwan on the phone, into his arms. Jinwan is already 2 months pregnant. I should visit her. Feng Ling put her phone aside. Didn't you say that you haven't had a good relationship with me for so many years? I'm respecting your thoughts, and decided to find a quiet place to take a walk. There are many familiar people in High City. Compared to America, it's safer in terms of security. It's been a long time since you last met up with Mr. Mo and Dr. Chin. I'll take this opportunity to see Jinwan. Isn't she vomiting every day? Does she have the energy to see you? I don't need her to accompany me. I'm just going to take a look. It's true that I haven't returned to High City for a long time. Jinwan said that her pregnancy this time was even worse than the last time she was pregnant with an and Ning Ning. At that time, the two little babies were very quiet in her stomach and basically didn't torture her. This time, however, she vomited heavily every morning, causing Mr. Mo to be late for work every day. He insisted on watching over her at home until she got over the discomfort of her morning sickness. Only then could he leave the Yu garden with peace of mind. Although there were Auntie Chun and many people at home to help take care of the children, Anen and Ningning were used to being by their parents' side and always liked to be with them. It was said that every night, Mr. Mo had to lie between the two children and tell them at least 3 stories before they were willing to sleep. Moreover, Ningning always liked to hug her father's thigh to sleep, and Anen liked to hug her mother's stomach to sleep. As time passed, this became a habit. Recently, Jinwan had just become pregnant and had to take good care of her stomach, so she had to battle wits with the 2 little guys every night. The longer she tossed around before going to bed, the more she vomited the next morning. The doctor said that Jinwan's reaction in the early stages of pregnancy could not be controlled with medicine, but after the first 3 months, she would improve. Seeing that there was only 1 month left, in order to calm his wife down, Mr. Mo simply sent Anen and Ningning to the Mo family and let the 2 children torment Elder Mo. Elder Mo was very happy. He was willing to tell 10 stories every night. Jinwan was quiet, but she missed the children every night. During pregnancy, she was easily agitated and would occasionally cry, which scared Mr. Mo so much that he moved back to the Mo family with Jinwan and the servants. In this way, the children would be accompanied by the elder, and Jinwan could also see the children. Everyone was happy. Fengling felt that it was necessary for her to see the 2 cute and clingy little guys, and let Li Nanhing experience the atmosphere of being a father in advance. Chapter 1426. High City Airport. Jinwan sat on a bench at the exit of the airport, crying with snot and tears. She had been crying for a full 10 minutes. Mo Jingshan coaxed her for a full 10 minutes. In the end, he called Auntie Chun, who had followed him, to buy a cup of sweet milk for her to drink. Jinwan was still sobbing as she drank the sweet milk. She turned her head away and ignored him. Auntie Chun didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Fengling and Li Nanheng walked out of the safety gate of the customs passage. When they walked to the exit, they saw this scene. Yo, why did you quarrel at the airport? Li Nanheng put one hand in his trouser pocket and walked over. Fengling saw that Jinwan was crying and thought that something had happened. After all, the Jinwan she knew was not a person who liked to cry. Even if she was really unhappy, she was a person who could endure it. Why did she sit here and cry? What's wrong? What happened? Fengling leaned forward and saw that Jinwan's eyes were still red. Jinwan took a look at her and sniffled. It seemed that she had cried too much and couldn't speak for a while. Mo Jingshan, who was sitting by the side, took a look at Li Nanheng. How do your eyes feel recently? Li Nanheng curved his lips. Not bad. A few days after the surgery, they were a little blurry. These days they've recovered a lot. Other than the occasional pain and itchiness when I overuse my eyes, they're no different from before. What did Dr. Yurko say? He said that she still needs external massage for at least 2 months, but now it basically doesn't affect her life. Li Nanheng glanced at Jinwan as he spoke. Why? Did you make your wife cry? Auntie Chun stood by the side and quickly said, It's because after Mrs. Mo got pregnant this time, I don't know what kind of little ancestor she's pregnant with. Ever since she got pregnant, her emotions and temper have been especially sensitive. I think it's because the morning sickness this time was too severe and caused her to suffer. If she doesn't eat the things she likes to eat, she will want to cry. Just now, Mrs. Mo saw that there was a milk tea shop selling there, and said that she wanted to drink milk tea. Mr. Mo thought that milk tea was not good for her in the early stages of pregnancy, so he didn't let her drink it. In the end, Mrs. Mo has been crying ever since. Li Nanheng. Feng Ling. Li Nanheng glanced at Jin Wan, who was still angrily drinking sweet milk and ignoring Mo Jingshan. Is a pregnant woman so scary? Mo Jingshan, on the other hand, was calm. He glanced at him indifferently. When Feng Ling is pregnant, you can feel it yourself. Feng Ling. Our Feng Ling doesn't like to cry so much. Besides, it's just a cup of milk tea, so what? There are no real tea leaves in the milk tea outside. Don't mistreat your wife's mouth. Li Nanheng said as he looked around to see if there was a place that sold milk tea. For Jin Wan's sake, he planned to buy a cup for her. After all, this woman's eyes were red when she cried, and she looked really pitiful. Mr. Li, you haven't become a father yet. You don't understand these things. Mrs. Mo really can't drink these things now. Besides, when a woman is pregnant, she is always very greedy. Recently, she has eaten a lot of junk food because of her gluttony. Mr. Mo is also doing this for his own good. Before Auntie Chen finished speaking, Jin Wan had already burst into tears again. She leaned her head against Feng Ling's arms and cried out in grievance. Mo Jingshan turned back to look at her. Seeing that she had actually gone to find Feng Ling to act coquettishly, he was so helpless that the veins on his forehead bulged. Then he received Li Nanheng's cold and mocking gaze. Mo Jingshan coldly glanced at him. He did not speak, but his gaze was clearly saying, "Don't be anxious. You're almost at this step." Auntie Chen smiled helplessly by the side, as though she had long been used to it. Women are very fragile when they are pregnant. Recently, Mr. Mo didn't allow her to hug An and Ning Ning to sleep. As a mother, her psychology must have been affected. It's inevitable that she will be emotional during pregnancy. Mrs. Mo's temper is so good. When she is pregnant, she will occasionally quarrel with Mr. Mo and act coquettishly. It's quite cute. Hearing that Auntie Chen actually said she was cute, Jin Wan cried even louder. I'm already a child's mother. What else can I love? With that, she continued to cry. Feng Ling was a little dazed by Jin Wan's crying. She quickly patted her shoulder. All right, don't cry. If you continue to cry, I don't dare to imagine what it will be like when I am pregnant in the future. You rarely cry in the past. Is pregnancy so uncomfortable? Jin Wan suddenly stopped crying. She raised her head from Feng Ling's arms and looked at her with a pair of red eyes for a while. Then she sniffed and stepped back. She then turned back to take a few tissues from Auntie Chen's hand. After wiping her nose, she looked at Feng Ling with red eyes, and then at her stomach. She asked in a nasal tone, Are you pregnant? Feng Ling immediately looked a little embarrassed. No. Then she paused and said doubtfully, I don't think I'm pregnant. During this period of time, she and Li Nanheng had been doing it quite frequently, and they hadn't taken any contraceptive measures. In the past, he had basically been careful every time. Even when they were in the jungle, he respected her wishes and didn't take it in. But now Feng Ling wasn't sure if she was pregnant. Anyway, she didn't seem to notice any signs of pregnancy. At the very least, she really didn't have any reactions like Jin Wan's vomiting and crying. Jin Wan sobbed again. She looked at Feng Ling's face and muttered, You're too thin. It's not easy to get pregnant. You have to eat more. Feng Ling chuckled. Weren't you also very thin when you were pregnant? Auntie Chen interrupted. Mrs. Mo has been eating a lot recently, but no matter how much she eats, she doesn't gain weight. Previously, when she was pregnant with An and Ning Ning, she was also fed all kinds of delicious and nutritious food by Mr. Mo every day, but she still didn't gain weight. It seems that she only gained 20 pounds during her pregnancy. After giving birth, she already lost weight before she even finished her confinement. Now it's the same. She eats and drinks every day, but she just can't gain weight. Feng Ling smiled and glanced at Jin Wan again, but Jin Wan began to drink her sweet milk again. As she drank, she turned her head to say to Mo Jingshan, I still want to drink milk tea. It tastes too sweet. Mo Jingshan's eyes were filled with a patient smile, but his words were serious and cold. No. Seeing that Jin Wan was about to cry again, Feng Ling quickly sat by Jinwan's side to talk to her and divert her attention. Chapter 1427. Finally, he coaxed Jinwan, who had been clamoring for a cup of milk tea, back to the car. Li Nanheng sat in the car and rubbed between his eyebrows, feeling that he had been keeping a distance from women for so many years. Women were really king troublesome, but his Feng Ling should be fine. She didn't have too many women's emotions in her bones. On the way back, Jinwan still refused to talk to Mo Jingshan. She sat in the back and chatted with Feng Ling. One moment, they talked about Feng Ling in the United States, and the next moment, they talked about Anan and Ning Ning. When it came to the children, Jinwan was finally diverted by the brilliance of motherly love. She happily took out her cell phone to show Feng Ling the photos of the children. The two children were almost 3 years old. They were very fair and cute. Anan was a boy and really looked like his father. It could be seen that when he grew up, he would definitely be a handsome boy on the same level, as Mr. Mo. Ning Ning looked very much like Jinwan. She had Jinwan's cuteness and Mr. Mo's innate cold aura. When she grew up, she would definitely be a cute little beauty with an extremely cold appearance. Feng Ling had seen these photos before. After becoming a mother, Jinwan was really crazy about showing off the children. She would occasionally send photos of the children to Mo Jingshan. However, there were still many photos she hadn't seen. Feng Ling held her cell phone and looked at them all the way. However, because of Jinwan's morning sickness, the car was forced to stop about 3 times. Every time, Jinwan pushed the door open and got out of the car uncomfortably. She ran to the side of the road and bent over to vomit for a long time. Sometimes she spat out some water, and sometimes she just retched. Every time the car stopped, Mr. Mo would personally accompany her to get off the car. He stood by her side, wiped her mouth, handed her water, patted her on the back, and held her in his arms to comfort her. Whenever she was in pain, Mr. Mo would pat her on the back and comfort her in his arms. Whenever Auntie Chen really needed help, Auntie Chen couldn't do anything, but continued to sit in the car and stare at the driver. Anyway, they were used to it. Mr. Mo always doted on Mrs. Mo. Although he was going to be a mother for the second time, he still doted on her like a little girl. Jinwan was treated almost the same as Anan and Ning Ning. They were the 3 treasures in Mo Jingshan's eyes. Jinwan, on the other hand, was so uncomfortable that she pushed Mo Jingshan in his arms several times. Mo Jingshan patiently coaxed her. Before returning to the car, he held her in his arms, kissed her sweaty forehead, and said something in her ear. Jinwan was no longer angry with him. She obediently leaned in his arms and let him pat her back to ease her vomiting, so that she wouldn't continue to feel nauseous. After coaxing her back to the car, Mo Jingshan asked the driver to drive and asked Auntie Chen to put a backrest behind Jinwan, so that she could lean more comfortably. After a while, Jinwan fell asleep leaning against Mo Jingshan. Li Nanheng was very puzzled by this scene. He looked at Feng Ling, who had been sitting calmly in the back with him, and the two of them looked at each other. They had all seen with their own eyes how Jinwan cooked for the brothers in the base in the Cambodian camp after she was pregnant. She went deep into the enemy's camp to deliver food and water to Mo Jingshan, pretending to be deaf and dumb, and cooperated with those desperados. Step by step, she walked out of the dragon's pool and tiger's den safely with Mo Jingshan. At that time, Jinwan's temper was not as bad as it was now. So, Auntie Chen's little pregnancy lesson began again in the car. Seeing Jinwan fall asleep by Mo Jingshan's side, Auntie Chen felt bored sitting in the car, so she began to talk about all kinds of pregnancy knowledge. She also said that every pregnancy of a woman was different because of her physique and various aspects. Many elderly people said that pregnant boys and girls had different reactions during pregnancy. Some had very big reactions, and some didn't feel anything, as if they were not pregnant at all. Auntie Chen also said that Jinwan was in a bad mood today because she vomited several times on the way to the airport. It was too uncomfortable, so when she arrived at the airport, she asked for a cup of iced milk tea. After being refused, she sat there aggrievedly. Just now, she was vomiting and carsick after pregnancy. It was too uncomfortable, and it was normal for her to be sleepy. After hearing Auntie Chen's words, Li Nanheng and Feng Ling chose not to say anything in the car, lest they woke up the little devil next to Mo Jingshan, and continued to cry and vomit, making everyone restless. Feng Ling felt a little guilty. If she had known that Jin Wan was so pregnant, she wouldn't have asked her to come to the airport to pick her up. When she heard Jin Wan insist on coming to pick her up on the phone, she didn't refuse. Now it seemed that she really made Jin Wan suffer a lot. When the car arrived in downtown High City, Jin Wan woke up. After sleeping, she felt much better. Because Feng Ling and Mo Jingshan came to High City, she didn't plan to let them stay in a hotel. After waking up, she invited them to stay in the U Garden, the Mo family, Yuehu Bay, or Aolan International. In short, since they had returned to High City, there was no need for them to stay in a hotel. However, Li Nanheng said indifferently, "No need. It's not like I don't have a place in High City. Back then, when I was in High City in the United States, my men had already bought a residence here. I won't go to your place and disturb your small world of four." Feng Ling didn't speak but said in her heart, "I'm afraid you don't want to be stimulated by Mr. Mo's family of four." After all, other people's children already knew how to play soy sauce. Li Nanheng had been jealous of him several times in the United States. Feng Ling understood him quite well. "No, it's rare for the three of you to come back to High City in recent years. You must go out to drink. How can Feng Ling and I stay in our own homes? You and Qin Sighting can go wherever you want. I'll go to Feng Ling's place tonight," Jin Wan said, and looked at Mo Jingshan. "I'll get off the car with them in a while." Li Nanheng raised his eyebrows. Well, he didn't go to the U Garden to be the third wheel. But here, there was a crying girl who took the initiative to be his third wheel. Feng Ling didn't refuse. She also turned to look at Mo Jingshan. "Mr. Mo, can I?" Mo Jingshan glanced at Jin Wan, seeing her expression, as if she would run away from home with the child if he didn't agree. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "All right, I don't need to worry about you going to Feng Ling's place, but don't spend the night. When you're done chatting with her tonight, I'll pick you up." Before Jin Wan spoke, Feng Ling felt this was the most appropriate. Since Mr. Mo could agree, Jin Wan didn't need to be rejected. Feng Ling directly agreed. "All right, then it's settled." Jin Wan, Li Nanheng. Neither of them spoke. How could it be settled? Auntie Chen sat in the car and silently played with her fingers. She couldn't participate in the conversation between young people. She'd better find a chance to teach them about pregnancy. Chapter 1428. The sky gradually darkened. Sure enough, Li Nanheng and Mo Jingshan directly called Qin Sighting out. After a brief greeting, the three men went out to have fun and drink. Li Nanheng's residence in High City was in a very secluded community in the south of the city. It was located in the southernmost part of a townhouse. The environment was good, the air was good, and there were not many people coming and going. Usually, all kinds of luxury cars could be seen going in and out of the community. No one knew where these big shots came from, but those who could live here were indeed not ordinary. No wonder Li Nanheng always went to High City in the past few years. It turns out that he already has a place to live here. Jin Wan stood on the balcony and looked at the balcony that had just been cleaned. There was no dust or dirt, but because this place had been empty for too long, it was inevitable that there was a long accumulated smell of dust. She could only open the floor-to-ceiling windows wide and breathe in the night air outside. He probably hasn't lived here for many years. Although it has just been cleaned, your nose is too sensitive now. If you are not used to it, let's go out and find a place to eat. Let's not eat here, Feng Ling said as she walked to the balcony. No, I'm not used to it. It's just that I've been angry with Mo Jingshan recently, so no matter how I look at him these days, I don't like him. Jin Wan sat down on the wooden rocking chair placed on the balcony, and then touched her flat lower abdomen. I've only been pregnant for a few days this time, but Mo Jingshan threw Mo Shaoshan to the Mo family. I'm so angry. Feng Ling. Mo Shaoshan? Who? Oh, I'm talking about a cat. We've raised this cat for more than a year. At first he was quite averse to it. Later, he gradually helped me raise it, but suddenly I got pregnant. Without saying anything, he sent the cat away. Luckily, he only sent him to the Mo family. I can still visit him often. If he dared to send Mo Shaoshan somewhere else, I would definitely not live with him anymore. Anyway, she was too familiar with Feng Ling, so she didn't have to care too much about her image. She rocked here and there comfortably, feeling the cool night breeze. She narrowed her eyes and looked at Feng Ling, who was standing by the window on the balcony. She had not been in the base for so many years, but she was still standing quietly and upright. She was delicate and had long hair. From afar, she looked like a beautiful white jade statue. "When are you getting married?" Jinwan asked. After all, it was summer in High City. It was a very hot time. Feng Ling also felt that the night breeze was slightly cold, but it was very comfortable. Behind her was the warm yellow light from the window, and outside was the rows of green scenery of the park. Feng Ling glanced at her. The old people on both sides will come out to drink tea and walk birds every day. The only thing they lack is a legal marriage seal. Besides, getting married in America is just registering it. They just need to take some time to register it. They haven't thought about when it will be. Maybe one day, when they have nothing to do, they might just go. Feng Ling glanced at her. "You don't have anything to do." Jinwan continued to lie there and rocked. She nodded. "And that's good. Your relationship has reached the point where you won't leave him. So there's no need for too many superficial things. Especially you and Li Nanheng. You've also experienced life and death together. It's been so many years. Any day is fine. As long as you can live peacefully in the future, it's fine." With that, Jinwan glanced at her again. "You're not going back to the base." "I don't think so." Feng Ling smiled. "But I can occasionally go there as the young madam of the Li family. After all, it's the Li family's territory." Seeing the relief in Feng Ling's eyes, Jinwan smiled. "That's fine. You've become the young madam of the Li family from a small soldier in the base. Who is the current person in charge of the base?" "I don't know much about him. His name is Afeng, right?" "I don't remember where I heard it." "Yes, his name is Afeng. In the end, he didn't even live as well as you. In contrast, I covet his position as the person in charge of the base more." Feng Ling casually pulled the window behind her to prevent mosquitoes from flying in and said, "When I go back one day, I'll discuss with Afeng. I'll be the person in charge of the base, and give him the position of the young madam of the Li family." Jinwan was stunned for a moment, and didn't know how to react. When she came back to her senses, she found that Feng Ling, who used to be taciturn, was now able to tell corny jokes, and especially liked to make fun of Li Nanheng. The two women chatted and laughed on the balcony for a long time, but at 10 o'clock in the evening, the three men were still chatting outside, and had no intention of coming back. The two of them were happy and at ease. The two of them went out to buy food and came back to cook together. They only cooked 2 bowls of noodles, and were very satisfied. Because Jinwan was pregnant, Feng Ling specially bought a lot of fresh fruits, and cut them in front of her for her to eat. After Jinwan was pregnant, her mouth was really busy. Of course, she was very happy to have fruits to eat. They chatted until midnight. It was almost 11 o'clock. Jinwan leaned against the rocking chair, and was about to fall asleep. All of a sudden, Feng Ling hurried out of the bathroom, and gently tugged at the blanket on her. Jinwan opened her eyes and looked at her in a daze. "What's the matter?" "I've been thinking about going back to High City in Los Angeles for the past 2 days and forgot. Today, I found out that my period has been late for almost a week this month." Feng Ling said as she lowered her head to look at Jinwan, who was still lying on the rocking chair. It's normal for your period to be late for a month, isn't it?" Jinwan suddenly woke up. She looked at her with wide eyes, and then picked up her phone to check the time. "It's so late. I wonder if there's anyone in the blood test department, and the obstetrics and gynecology department in the hospital." Hearing her words, Feng Ling's expression froze. Obstetrics and gynecology department. Then she saw Jinwan calmly lift the blanket on her, sit up straight in the rocking chair, clear her throat, pick up her phone, and poke the screen a few times. Before Feng Ling could see what she was doing, Jinwan had already put the phone to her ear. A few seconds later, she said into the phone, "Hey Li Nanheng, your wife and child are in my hands now. If you don't hand Mo Jingshan back to me as soon as possible, I'll take your fiancé and unborn child to Syria to sell essential oil soap. Feng Ling. On the other side of the phone, Li Nanheng. Ling Li's story should be sweet with the little wolf cubs for a day or two. Then it's about to end. I thank everyone for their love on behalf of little Feng Ling and Li Era. After Ling Li's story ends, it will continue with Mr. Qin's story. Ling Li's story is about a passionate collision between a hot-blooded man dressed as a woman, and Mr. Qin's story should be a different style of serious romance. I hope everyone will like it as always. Chapter 1429. On the other side, in a secluded luxury private room of a certain club, seeing Li Nanheng's stunned expression, Qin Sighting casually flicked his cigarette and glanced at him. What's wrong? After speaking on the other side of the phone, he hung up without hesitation, throwing out a huge smoke bomb for no reason. Even someone as agile as Li Nanheng was stunned for a few minutes. Just now, Mo Jingshan's crying spirit said, "Speak properly." Mo Jingshan put down the transparent square cup in his hand and looked at him indifferently. What did Jinwan say? Qin Sighting smiled. Jinwan said that my wife and child are now in her hands. If you don't hand Mo Jingshan back as soon as possible, she will take my wife and child to Syria. Li Nanheng repeated what someone else had said with an inexplicable expression. He then looked at the two of them. Did this woman's paranoia act up after she got pregnant? Mo Jingshan didn't comment. Compared with many people who talk nonsense, Jinwan's words are 100% credible. Li Nanheng's breath stopped. So, Qin Sighting also picked up the cup on the crystal coffee table, rubbed his slender fingers against the cup, and said meaningfully, "She is reminding you that your wife is pregnant." Li Nanheng. Li Nanheng. Li Nanheng. After pondering for 3 seconds, Li Nanheng's expression changed very quickly. He threw the ice cubes from the ice bucket next to the wine cup into the glass with a lot of wine, stopped drinking, and left. However, as soon as he walked to the door of the private room, he remembered what Jinwan said on the phone, and suddenly looked back at Mo Jingshan, who was sitting leisurely on the sofa. "Old Mo, come with me." Mo Jingshan's elegant brows moved slightly. "Me." Li Nanheng didn't say much. He stepped forward and pulled Mo Jingshan up, as if he were going to kidnap him. Mo Jingshan didn't struggle, but just glanced at him as if he were crazy. Li Nanheng pulled him away, but then he thought about it and looked back at Qin Sighting, who looked at him as if saying, "You'd better leave quickly. I'm happy to have some peace and quiet." "You come with me." Qin Sighting. "Where am I going?" "Give my Feng Ling a checkup. There's a doctor here. It's a waste not to use him." With that, Li Nanheng gave Qin Sighting a look, signaling him to follow quickly. Qin Sighting. Jinwan never expected that her husband was really kidnapped by Li Nanheng all the way back. After arriving at Li Nanheng's villa in High City, Feng Ling, who had been muttering, "It's just that her period is a few days late. It's impossible for her to be pregnant so soon." Li Nanheng had already picked her up from the balcony and brought her into the living room. That's right, he was being flattered. At the same time, Li Nanheng also pushed her husband onto the balcony, which could be considered as fulfilling her request. She directly exchanged Mo Jingshan with him. At that time, Jinwan was still lying on the rocking chair, watching her husband being dragged back by Li Nanheng without even putting on a coat. Looking at the man's condescending expression, she thought of the cat that was sent to the Mo family, and an and Ning Ning who hadn't hugged her to sleep for several days. Jinwan turned her head away as if she had a backbone. Mo Jingshan walked over. "You've been at loggerheads with me for several days. Haven't you calmed down?" Jinwan timidly adopted a Cold War strategy. She didn't speak to show that she really hadn't calmed down. Mo Jingshan chuckled, bent over, and suddenly pressed her down on the rocking chair. Jinwan was caught off guard and was pressed down by him. Although the man was careful not to press down on her flat abdomen, he still pressed her whole body into the rocking chair. The rocking chair swayed back and forth for a long time without stopping. The man was on top of her, one hand on the armrest of the rocking chair, the other holding her chin, forcing her to raise her eyes to meet his. As soon as she met the man's eyes, Jinwan's heart trembled. She wanted to avoid him but couldn't. She seemed to be locked under him. She turned to look inside the window. Get up. There are several people here. If they see us, we're legally married. What will happen if they see us? Get up first. Who was the one who said on the phone that you wanted someone to bring your husband back in exchange? You finally got me back. And now you continue to ignore me with a cold face? Mo Jingshan's hand on her chin was not heavy. It was almost a gentle caress. Seeing that she was lying motionless in the rocking chair, and seeing that she was still holding back her anger, he smiled and kissed her on the lips. All right. When the pregnancy period is over 3 months, I'll have someone send the cat back to you. But be careful not to hold the cat. Although it is very clean, you should pay attention to what you should pay attention to. Seeing that he was willing to let her take the cat back, Jinwan finally looked better. In fact, it's really nothing. It's just that Auntie Chun nagged you all day that you should avoid cats and dogs around you during pregnancy. I've been very careful and won't easily joke about my and the child's health. You fed it for so long. Aren't you afraid that it won't be used to the dried fish you feed it every morning after returning to the Mo family? If it gets angry and doesn't eat, what if it gets sick from hunger? If the cat gets sick, it will. As far as I know, it not only eats dried fish in the morning at the Mo family, but now it even has 3 meals a day. I'm afraid it won't be happy to take it back now. I don't care. That's my cat. Without my permission, can you raise a cat at home? And you even gave it such a stupid name. No matter how stupid it is, it's only one word different from your name. Besides, aren't you already used to it? You clearly like it. I've seen you secretly feed it dried fish every morning. On the balcony, the Mo couple quarreled fiercely. From Mo Xiaoshan's name to whether An and Ning Ning could sleep in the same bed with Jinwan, to not allowing her to drink milk tea at the airport, they never stopped. Through the window, Feng Ling was pressed down on the sofa by the man who suddenly came back and carried her to the sofa without saying a word. She was not without feet. He suddenly came back and carried her away. What was going on? Qin Sighting was poached by Li Nanheng in the end. In the end, Qin Sighting was poached over by Li Nanheng. Seeing Feng Ling's expression, he sighed helplessly. Forget it, he had made a bad friend. He could only admit defeat. Thankfully, Qin Sighting was a professional doctor. Although he was not an obstetrician, he was proficient in both Chinese and Western medicine. He asked Li Nanheng to go to the pharmacy to buy a stethoscope. He occasionally listened to her heart, and then checked her heart rate. Finally, he put away the stethoscope and said lightly, "Call the Li family's 4 elders." Chapter 1430. Feng Ling? Li Nanheng glanced at Qin Sighting. What call? Tell them that old Li's family has a descendant. Qin Sighting glanced at Feng Ling calmly. Before he could say what to pay attention to during pregnancy, Li Nanheng had already looked at Feng Ling dreamily. Feng Ling also looked at him dreamily, as though it was unrealistic. As soon as their eyes met, Feng Ling didn't know where the awkwardness came from. It was probably because Dr. Qin was watching in front of her. She quickly looked away, but only felt that her heart was beating faster. She was pregnant just like that. From the looks of it, Feng Ling is still in the early stages of pregnancy, which is about 4 weeks. You can find time to go to the hospital for a checkup in the next few days to determine the specific number of weeks, Qin Sighting said mildly. Don't eat raw and cold things. Don't eat things that promote blood circulation and remove blood stasis. You're forbidden to have sex in the first 3 months of pregnancy. Feng Ling. She had taken care of Jinwan when she was pregnant and knew some things to pay attention to. But when this matter fell on her, she suddenly understood why Jinwan was sensitive and irritable as soon as she was pregnant. She had been restricted too much, and her pregnancy reaction was uncomfortable. All aspects added together would definitely be different from usual. But why didn't she have any pregnancy reaction? But I don't feel nauseous, nor do I feel very sleepy. Everyone's physique is different, and their reaction during pregnancy is also different. Some people have a big reaction in the first 3 months. Some people have a big reaction in the first 2 months. And some people will vomit for 10 months after pregnancy. Some people have no feeling at all. This is not important. After going to the hospital for a checkup, confirm that the embryo is stable, and rule out the ectopic pregnancy. Then you can rest assured and wait for the monthly checkup. With that, Qin Sighting glanced at Li Nanheng. No sex in the first 3 months. This sentence is for you. Feng Ling. Find a hole to hide in. Thank you. Li Nanheng, on the other hand, returned to his senses from the great joy, and was overjoyed. If it weren't for the fact that Qin Sighting and Mo Jingshan were here, he would definitely press Feng Ling onto the sofa and kiss her hard. I'm really pregnant. Li Nanheng couldn't hide the excitement of being a father. I'm going to be a father too? Feng Ling coughed. Do you not believe Dr. Qin or? I think he doubts himself. Qin Sighting chuckled softly. He's tied you to his side for so many years, and only now did you get pregnant. I even suspect that there's something wrong with him. Scram. Li Nanheng directly threw a word over. I have been very careful not to give her any chance to be in trouble. This is called tolerance. Understand? Unlike you, who slept with a woman and ran away with your seed. You only found out when your own daughter is about to learn how to play soy sauce. You have the nerve to mock me? Feng Ling hurriedly grabbed the pillow on the sofa and approached Li Nanheng. She pressed the pillow against his face to prevent him from speaking. She turned back to Qin Sighting and hurriedly said, Ignore him. He smells of alcohol. I think he's talking nonsense after drinking too much. Li Nanheng slapped the pillow down and saw that Feng Ling was standing in front of him. His eyes inadvertently glanced at her flat and slender abdomen under her clothes. He changed his tone and said, In the future, slow down when you stand up. Don't stand up so suddenly. After all, you're still pregnant. Don't make my heart palpitate. Feng Ling. It's not that exaggerated. Qin Sighting sneered. As expected, only you can control him. After you get married, dampen his spirit. Don't let this brat Nanheng be too arrogant. Otherwise, if your child is a daughter, he may dote on her. If it's a son, I'm afraid he'll throw him to the base. Furthermore, he'll be very domineering. You can't let him be. Otherwise, you won't be able to control him in the future. Li Nanheng was about to speak when Feng Ling hit his face with the pillow again. She had already begun to control Li Nanheng. 2 months later, Feng Ling, who had been in China for more than 2 months, had learned a lot of Chinese cooking skills from Jin Wan. Auntie Chen had also taught Feng Ling how to make dumplings and glutinous balls. The 4 elders of the Li family and the 2 elders of the Feng family had already learned of Feng Ling's pregnancy. Originally, they planned to bring them back and let them get married as soon as possible. However, Feng Ling felt that they could register their marriage first, so she asked the elders to help them register their marriage in America. Then she sent some forms that needed their signature to be signed to China. After signing them, she sent them back. In less than half a month, the place in charge of marriage registration in America already had their names. Just like that, they got married without any trouble. Perhaps because they had been together for so many years, and because Li Nanheng had married the second miss of the Feng family. Li Nanheng had long determined that she was his wife. Thus, such a marriage registration was just a piece of paper to him. However, after confirming that it had been successfully registered, it was equivalent to Feng Ling being his legal wife in the future. However, he hadn't had the time to prepare for the proposal, and the wedding hadn't been decided yet. Feng Ling said that she didn't need these things. In addition, she finally had some pregnancy symptoms recently. Every day, she always wanted to sleep, and when she woke up, she would retch for a while. Although it wasn't as serious as Jin Wan's, it was indeed uncomfortable. In the end, she simply compromised. Even if she wanted to do these things, she would wait until after she gave birth. Right now, she definitely didn't want to go through too much trouble, nor did she want to wear those beautiful wedding gowns that had a body-binding effect to bind her stomach. There had to be a proposal and a wedding, but it didn't matter if they waited for a few months. After all, they had to give her the best. If they were too anxious, it would be too rushed. After the child was born, the 6 elders would appear together to attend their wedding. That scene would be even more perfect and happy. Furthermore, at their wedding, because of the appearance of the child, there would be one more family member by Feng Ling's side. Feng Ling had too few family members. In the future, their child and him would be the most important and closest people in her life. It was precisely because Feng Ling was pregnant that Li Nanheng usually gave in to her. Now that she was pregnant, he did whatever she said. When his wife said she wanted to go east, Boss Li didn't care about his past reputation. Whoever dared to ask him to go west, he would be angry with them. Feng Ling said that the two of them had been in the United States for so many years and had too few peaceful days. Since they had returned to China, they should travel around the country and see the great rivers and mountains in China. Thus, Li Nanheng brought Feng Ling to Mia to see the sea view, to Sichuan to eat hot pot, to Qingzhou to eat ramen, to Zhejiang to eat raisins, to the northern desert to see the grasslands, and to Changbai Mountain to eat dumplings. Chapter 1431. Feng Ling's love for hot pot was the same as before. In the past 2 months, she had gone to so many places. In the end, she still chose to return to Sichuan. However, because of her pregnancy, Li Nanheng only allowed her to eat hot pot twice a week. Furthermore, it had to be slightly spicy. If it was too spicy, she had to be soaked in water before she could eat it. The hot pot had to have both meat and vegetables. Even if it was a hot pot, she had to pay attention to nutrition. The man who was as agile as a leopard in front of the terrorists turned into a nagging spirit every day. Most importantly, when did he exchange phone numbers with Auntie Chun? He actually called Auntie Chun to ask about the various things a woman should pay attention to after pregnancy, as well as how to take care of her emotions, her physical and mental health, diet, and other aspects. One time, Feng Ling happened to hear that Boss Li was listening to Auntie Chen's teaching on the other side of the phone. He even took notes. She looked at the notes that were written down. Those bold and powerful words made her speechless. Ever since Qin Sighting gave the order that in the first 3 months of pregnancy, he was not allowed to touch Feng Ling before the 12th week of pregnancy, Li Nanheng was like an old monk. Every day, he only cared about her diet and daily life. But when she slept, he definitely did not dare to act rashly. However, as soon as the 3-month spell was lifted, on the night Feng Ling was 12 weeks pregnant, Li Nanheng went to the bathroom to wash himself up and rubbed Feng Ling into his arms. Feng Ling wanted to say that even if it had already been 3 months, she still had to be careful. However, Li Nanheng insisted that Qin Sighting and the obstetricians in the hospital had said that it would be fine after 3 months. She just had to be careful not to indulge too much. She pointed at the light in the bedroom and swore that she would be gentler. Then she buried her head in his chest and sighed, saying that after the child was born, they would probably be like Mo Jingxian and Jin Wan. They would often be pestered by the child to sleep on the same bed. Their small world would only become smaller and smaller. Right now they needed to cherish it. In the end, Feng Ling could not stand this man's words and compromised under his strong arms. After all, Li Nanheng was Li Nanheng. He was not Mo Jingxian. If their child dared to disturb his sleep, he would probably kick the child off the bed without mercy. Thinking about this scene, Feng Ling felt that it was necessary to place the child by the elderly's side. Otherwise, the child might be bullied by his own father. This night, Li Nanheng had indeed been gentle, but after all, he had endured for too long. One time was not enough, so he did it again. However, he couldn't casually carry her to the bathroom for fear of danger, so he kept tormenting her on the bed. It wasn't until Feng Ling was really tired and sleepy that he retreated with a look of satisfaction. Feng Ling's biological clock was still very punctual. Even though she was a little tired last night, she slept soundly and woke up at 6 in the morning. Recently, she and Li Nanheng had been staying in the penthouse suite of a star hotel in Sichuan. They were all luxurious suites with kitchens and cubicles that allowed them to cook their own meals. Occasionally, they would eat from the hotel, and occasionally they would cook on a whim. She inexplicably loved to eat dumplings. In the past she didn't eat much. Some time ago, she ate it at Auntie Chen's place. Later, when she went to Changbai Mountain, she ate it twice and accidentally ate dumplings with chives, eggs, and shrimp. It was so delicious that she missed the taste every few days. Thus, after going out to eat hot pot yesterday, She dragged Li Nanheng to the nearby supermarket to buy a lot of flour and ingredients. Auntie Chen did teach her, but she didn't know if the food she made would taste good, so she got up early to prepare. Li Nanheng was still sleeping when he heard the whirring sound in the kitchen. It rang for a long time. Feng Ling had just called Auntie Chen. Auntie Chen had just taught her how to chop the dumpling filling. She was chopping nonstop, preparing to make dumplings later. Although he was satisfied last night, when he saw Feng Ling sleeping in his arms in the second half of the night, he was still hard for a few hours. However, he was afraid that she wouldn't be able to take it since she was pregnant, so he repeatedly took a cold shower. He was afraid that the cold air would cool her, so after showering, he sat in the living room for a while. When his body warmed up, he went to lie down by her side. After tossing and turning for a long time, he finally fell asleep when it was almost dawn. Right now, he was really sleepy and slept for more than an hour in the kitchen. By the time Li Nanheng got up, Feng Ling had already made the noodles and was sitting at the dining table making dumplings. The room was quiet. It was raining outside today, and there was a dense layer of water and fog on the window glass. Feng Ling was wearing beige home clothes. She was as thin as Jin Wan, and even though she had been pregnant for 3 months, her belly still didn't show. It was said that many thin people didn't show their belly until they were 4 months pregnant. The woman was concentrating on pinching the dumplings with her head down. She was still a beginner when it came to making dumplings. The filling was done, but the dumpling skin was not very round at the beginning. The first dozen dumplings looked a little unsightly, but the next 20 or 30 dumplings looked more and more presentable. When she made more than 40 dumplings, she just found the right position with both hands and squeezed hard, and a perfect white and fat dumpling was formed. In the past, when Feng Ling was in the base, she especially liked guns. Now, she really liked to learn how to cook. Perhaps nothing could make people feel the gift of ordinary life more than food. She learned very quickly. Usually, as long as she liked it, she would be able to quickly accept it. For example, the dumplings were becoming more and more presentable. The ones that were made in the back were all placed neatly on the table. They were not cooked yet, but they were already enough to make one drool. Such a dexterous Feng Ling was really amazing. It wasn't that Li Nanheng hadn't eaten this before. Especially living in America, he wasn't too sensitive to the food in China. He just liked to eat some Chinese food. However, at this moment, when he saw Feng Ling casually tied her hair up with a rubber band and focused on making dumplings, he felt inexplicably full of joy. Li Nanheng stood by the bedroom door and watched the scene in the dining room. At this moment, his heart was perfectly surrounded by the quiet atmosphere in front of him. Feng Ling seemed to be very satisfied with the dumplings she made. The little dimples on the corners of her lips that didn't often appeared because of her smile. Li Nanheng stepped on the thick carpet outside and leaned over from behind. He loosely held Feng Ling's waist. "You're awake? You." Feng Ling knew it was him and didn't turn her face. However, the man suddenly leaned over and bit her lips. At the same time, he kissed her and didn't want to leave. Aya, it's about time for it to be sweet. I think it's about time to change the next pair of CP tomorrow. The Li era who has been smeared with honey is so sweet that my teeth are about to fall. Chapter 1432. Li Nanheng didn't stop until Feng Ling's lips were about to turn red. "Do you want to wrap it together?" Feng Ling asked him. Li Nanheng watched as she became more and more skilled. "How can you eat so much? Is it a lot?" Feng Ling didn't eat too much or too little. It was a very healthy amount of food. Li Nanheng's appetite was considered normal among men, and he wouldn't eat too much or too little. Right now, she had only wrapped dozens of dumplings. "I plan to wrap more. If the taste is good, I can cook it tonight. If it's not good, it's delicious," Li Nanheng concluded. "You haven't eaten yet. It looks delicious enough. If it really tastes good, it definitely won't be worse than Auntie Chen's." As Li Nanheng spoke, he lowered his head and kissed her forehead. "Don't wrap it. These are enough. If you want to eat it tonight, I'll take you out to eat. Don't work so hard." Feng Ling counted and found that she had already wrapped about 60 dumplings. She decided to round them up and began to pack up her things after exactly 60. Then she took out a portion to cook. After more than 10 minutes, the dumplings were cooked. Li Nanheng came to the kitchen first and picked one out to taste. Feng Ling quickly said, "Blow it. Quickly blow it. Don't burn it." The window happened to be open, and the wind blew in. Li Nanheng stood by the window and allowed the wind to blow the dumplings. He also blew it twice and put it in his mouth. Feng Ling stared at his expression. "How is it? Is it delicious?" Li Nanheng narrowed his eyes and then raised his eyebrows solemnly. He looked like a judge sitting on the bench of a food festival, recalling the taste seriously. Just as Feng Ling thought that he was going to keep her in suspense again, the man suddenly leaned down and kissed her lips. The tip of his tongue brushed against hers, allowing her to taste the dumplings he had made. It seemed that the taste was not bad. "Did you feel it?" The man kissed her lips again. "All right, you can eat now. It definitely tastes good." Feng Ling blushed at his way of tasting her. She pretended to turn around and cleared her throat. "All right, let's get ready for breakfast. Anyway, it's getting late." Li Nanheng had kissed enough. He happily went to help take the plate and mix the dipping sauce. After being busy for a long time in the morning, he could finally eat the dumplings. He was very full. After the meal, the rain outside stopped. After noon, the weather was clear and the air was especially good. This kind of weather was suitable for Feng Ling to go out for a walk and play with the unborn child in her stomach. Li Nanheng brought Feng Ling downstairs for a walk. The two of them were wearing black trousers and black t-shirts and a thin white sports coat. In fact, it was not considered a couple's outfit, but Feng Ling's style of dressing could not be too feminine. When she returned to the Feng family, she had no choice but to change in order to work. She was still used to dressing like this, and gradually, every time she and Li Nanheng went out, they would often wear standard black and white matching couples' outfits. In addition, Li Nanheng was extremely chauvinistic and possessive. When walking on the street, whenever a man glanced at Feng Ling, he would immediately hold her shoulders and press her into his arms, brazenly declaring ownership. It was as though a few big words were written on his face. "This is my wife." Feng Ling was used to how cold this man was to outsiders, and how warm he was to her. When they were outside, she told him to try his best to restrain himself and not always hug her. After all, he was already a man over 30 years old. He was like a group of middle school students who were dating on the street, pulling and hugging each other to show off their love. However, Feng Ling did not understand the thoughts of middle school students. They held hands on the street because they were in love, but when they saw such a beautiful sister and such a handsome and mature man walking together so lovingly, they were extremely envious. They were all wondering if they could only openly hug and hold hands when they grew up without being afraid of being discovered by their parents. When Feng Ling was outside, she was always thin-skinned. Li Nanheng did not make things difficult for her. He strolled to the nearby supermarket, casually walked around and bought some things. Then he held Feng Ling's hand and touched the platinum ring on her nameless finger that he had not taken off ever since he put it on. He lowered his head and glanced at her. Then, he held her hair up and looked at it carefully. "What are you looking at?" After the ring that the old lady wore was polished into a new one. "Although the size is very suitable for you, this is, after all, only a token of goodwill from the old man to his granddaughter-in-law. It can't be considered our wedding ring. The marriage proposal can be made up for after the child is born. As for the ring, I think it's better to buy it today. I don't need it. This is fine. I don't usually wear jewelry. I gave it to you. You have to wear it. I have to dote on my wife." Feng Ling. Li Nanheng brought Feng Ling to the most prosperous commercial street in Sichuan City. The few shopping malls in front were not bad. Feng Ling was led in by Li Nanheng. Seeing that this man was really persistent in treating her well, Feng Ling sometimes didn't know what was good about her. She felt that her current life was very good, but Li Nanheng seemed to be unable to give her enough. He just wanted to give her everything he could, even if it was only a small ring. The two of them went to a very famous French jewelry store to look around for a while. In the end, they chose a pair of rings. The man's ring was still plain, but it had a rich design inside. It was made by a famous designer. The woman's ring was the kind that Feng Ling liked. It was a very simple diamond ring. After the shop assistant measured their fingers and placed an order, Li Nanheng was still looking at the other jewelry on the counter, thinking about which ones he could buy for Feng Ling to wear. In the end, Feng Ling's gaze was attracted by a shop outside the shopping mall. Seeing that the size of her fingers had already been measured, she used the excuse of buying a bottle of water to go out. Li Nanheng looked at it for a long time, and felt that no matter which one she wore, it would look good on her. When Feng Ling was in the base, her skin was especially white. Now that she didn't need to train in the base every day, her skin was especially white. No matter what jewelry she wore, she would look good. There was no need to choose. When he turned back and saw that she hadn't returned, Li Nanheng quickly turned to look for his wife. In the end, when he went to the place selling water outside, he didn't see anyone. He swept his gaze forward and saw the large knife shop opposite. On top of it, there were 4 exaggerated words, King of 100 Weapons. Feng Ling had been uninterested in the jewelry store earlier, but now that she was standing in the store opposite, her eyes lit up. Li Nanheng. Chapter 1433. Before Li Nanheng walked in, he went to the side to buy 2 bottles of mineral water before entering. Feng Ling was standing in the crystal counters inside, looking at the exhibits that seemed to be sealed and forbidden to touch. When she saw a knife engraved with ancient Indian patterns, she lowered her head to read the various descriptions written on the side of the knife. Feng Ling was engrossed in reading when a bottle of water was suddenly handed over. She turned back to see Li Nanheng standing by the side. He glanced at the knife lightly and asked mildly, "Do you like it?" "Yes, but this kind of knife is only worth collecting. Most of the knives here are just antique exhibits. Only the ones in the front counter can be sold. There seems to be a lot of English knives and Russian professional folding knives. I'll go and have a look later." Li Nanheng glanced at the knife and said indifferently, "It does have collection value, but this one is fake." Feng Ling was surprised. "How can it be fake? This Damascus knife is famous in the world. It is very famous in the international knife industry. Its origin is ancient India. It is made of wood steel ingots. There are casting patterns on the surface. This knife was used as a weapon in ancient India, Persia, Arabia, and other places. It is extremely sharp, and there are many rumors about it. However, with the exhaustion of the Wuxia iron mine, this knife has long been a peerless product. Although it is famous in the world, it is difficult to find a real one," Li Nanheng said lightly. "Then how can you be sure that this is fake? I read here that there is still one surviving in the world, because the real one is in the Li family." Feng Ling glanced at him in disbelief. Li Nanheng raised his cold brows and gave her a meaningful expression. "In these shops in China, there are too many half-real and half-fake ones. I can't guarantee that one is real, but I can't guarantee which one is fake. After all, it is a big country of imitation." Feng Ling quickly pulled him back and asked him to lower his voice. Li Nanheng's voice was not loud. After being pulled by her, he lowered his head and leaned close to her ear. "If you like it, go back and ask grandfather for it. That is the Damascus knife he has kept for decades. If you say you like it, he will definitely give it to you without hesitation. After all, in the entire Li family, you and the little thing in your stomach are the ancestors. Since it's grandpa's collection, I won't covet it. Let him keep it." Feng Ling lowered her head to look at the fake in the crystal cabinet in front of her. Because she knew it was fake, the more she looked at it, the more she disliked it. She did not look at the knives in the other cabinets, and went to look at the knives in the front. In the end, she picked up a small and exquisite folding knife that was extremely sharp and hidden in it, and played with it in her hand. "Didn't you insist on giving me a present? It will take at least a month for the ring to be custom-made. Why don't you give me a knife today?" Li Nanheng glanced at the price on the knife. Compared to a diamond ring that was worth millions, 2,000 yuan was really not worth mentioning. But she liked it very much. It was a genuine Russian folding knife. It did look like it was made of fine steel. He glanced at it, and called the shop assistant to settle the bill. When the shop assistant came over, he thought it was the gentleman who wanted to buy it. It wasn't until the gentleman swiped his card that he realized it was the beautiful lady in the couple's outfit, who had been holding the folding knife, as if it was something she loved. Did women actually like these knives and spears? For Feng Ling, it was more than just liking. Walking out of the shop, she opened the folding knife in her hand and looked at the sky in the direction of the sun. She narrowed her eyes slightly and said softly, "When I was 5 years old, when I was taken away by the American mafia in the jungle, a man saw that I was too scared and gave me a folding knife like this in his hand. He told me that as long as I had a weapon in my hand, as long as I was strong and calm enough, I didn't have to be afraid of anything. In the years before I was sent to the orphanage, that knife had always been by my side. It supported my courage and my faith, allowing me to gradually learn to walk upright from a little wolf girl and become a human. Later, that knife was taken away by the orphanage or the police at that time. I didn't find the same one for many years, but today, I found it." Li Nanheng understood and reached out to pull her into his arms. He rubbed her head. "It doesn't matter if this knife is by your side in the future. From now on, I'm your knife." Feng Ling's lips curled up. This narcissistic man wanted to snatch the limelight from a knife. Was he trying to be her courage and her faith? There was no need to snatch it. Many years ago, he was already one. Another 3 years passed. Winter passed, spring came, and summer passed. The Li family's little grandson, Li Shenyue, had his 3rd birthday. The 2 elders of the Feng and Li families wanted to gather together, but there were too many people who wanted to come over to celebrate the child's birthday. They could only choose a larger venue. After choosing for a while, they actually chose 11 base. Li Shenyue, who had been brought to the base by his father since he could walk at the age of 1, finally managed to slip away from his 4 great-grandfathers and great-grandparents. The 3-year-old fair and clean little boy walked past the various training camps in a dignified manner. From time to time, he stopped and put his hands behind his back. He imitated Uncle Ah Feng's lecturing tone and said, "What are you all doing? Don't whisper to each other during training. Do you think this is a market?" When the newcomers who were training saw that the little young master of the Li family had strolled here, they couldn't help but run over to carry the little thing over. They fed him water and fanned him. From time to time, they asked him what he wanted to eat. They were just short of hugging Li Xinyue's thigh and calling him daddy. After all, he would be the successor of 11 base in the future. In another 10 years, he would probably point at their noses and scold them all day long. It was better to suck up to him early. Li Shenyue crossed his legs and enjoyed the juice brought by the little uncles, as well as the ice cream and snacks bought from the base's cafeteria. Just as he was enjoying himself, he suddenly heard a gunshot. It seemed to have been fired from 500 meters away. The little fellow's ears twitched, and she jumped down from the chair in an instant. She shoved the juice and all the food in her hands back into their arms, throwing the blame to them very quickly. Then, she ran out quickly, saying as she ran, "My mommy is here. Don't tell her that I've been here." "Yes, little ancestor." The newbies at the base watched as the 3-year-old little radish ran a few hundred meters away and accurately found his mommy, who was guiding the newbies in shooting. He ran over and hugged her thigh. "Mommy, when can I hold a gun?" Feng Ling held the gun in one hand. Afraid that it would accidentally fire and hurt him, she quickly pushed the clingy little fellow away. However, the little thing hugged her leg and refused to let go. When Li Nanheng heard the sound and walked over, the moment he heard his father's footsteps, Li Shenyue instantly became terrified. He bent his back and was about to slip away. "Li Shenyue, did you go to the newbie team to ask them to buy snacks for you just now? Get back here. Brat, stop right there. Aha! Uncle Fatai, save me. Uncle Han, save me. Uncle Su, save me. Uncle Feng, save me. Ah, Uncle K, save me. Ah. End of Ling Li's story. Chin sighting / Shirniange, you are my little love song. See you in the next love song. Chapter 1434. Dr. Chin. The patient in bed 6 with a fracture in his calf secretly tried to get out of bed and walk around while his family went out to get water. Right now, he has been complaining that his leg hurts. The tall and straight figure was dressed in a long white doctor's gown. When he walked, his gaze was cold. When he pushed open the door of the ward, he saw the young man lying on the bed holding his leg in pain, moaning in pain. "Dr. Chin, you're here. Quickly take a look. This child is just disobedient. I already told him not to get out of bed and walk around, but he insisted that he was young and not afraid. He even said that it had been so long since the operation, so he could get out of bed and jump a few times. In the end, he only came down and walked for a few minutes." When the patient's family saw that the attending doctor had arrived, he quickly stood up and walked over. "Will he be fine? Will it affect his recovery after the operation?" The man did not speak. He only walked to the bed and looked down at the boy in his early 20s. This boy was a university student. He was too fierce when passing the ball in the school's basketball club competition. He was accidentally kicked down by the opponent and twisted to the ground, causing a fracture in his ankle and calf. It had been almost a month since the operation. However, because the boy still had other illnesses and some people in his family had a say in the hospital, the Department of Internal Medicine and the Department of Orthopedics would occasionally come over to take a look. "I'm a physician," Chin Sighting said indifferently. He casually picked up the list in the blue folder on the bed and glanced at it. He then turned to the nurse behind him and said, "Call Dr. Zhang from the Department of Orthopedics over." As soon as the little nurse saw Dr. Chin's face, she knew that he must be very tired after the operation half an hour ago. He rarely talked to people when he was not working in the hospital. At this moment, his face looked even colder. The little nurse did not dare to ask more. She responded and quickly walked out of the ward. "Dr. Chin, you've just finished an operation. You must be very tired. I know it's because the child is not sensible that you have to take the trouble to come and see him during your rest time. But I'm really worried about his leg." The patient's family stood by the side and saw the surprisingly good-looking male doctor's face. He spoke with some apprehension. Chin Sighting glanced at the patient's family member coldly and said in a clear and cold voice, "The chief surgeon and the nurses should have reminded him more than once about the surgical procedures. The current situation will not affect the healing of his leg bones, but whether the rehabilitation will be smooth or not depends on his own physique and calcium absorption. No doctor can guarantee that he will be able to stand up and return to the basketball court in a few months, but if he still does not take the doctor's advice seriously, I can guarantee that he will definitely not be able to return to the basketball court in a few months." The patient's family was shocked. Chin Sighting did not even look at the young man on the bed, whose eyes were red from anxiety. When he heard the footsteps of an orthopedic doctor approaching, he walked out expressionlessly. The door of the ward opened. Dr. Zhang from the orthopedics department greeted Chin Sighting when he saw him. "Sighting, why do you look so pale these 2 days? Have the higher-ups arranged too many surgeries for you? Have you not rested for a long time? You've been on duty recently, and there are a few very important thoracotomy surgeries that are linked together, right? It's fine. The one inside, you better treat him well. He's so young and overestimates himself. Don't really cripple his leg just like that." Chin Sighting did not turn back. He only raised his hand slightly as a form of greeting and goodbye. He walked straight in the direction of his own consultation room. "TSK, you're only 5 or 6 years older than the one inside. You speak as if you're older." Dr. Zhang smiled and pushed the door open to enter. Chin Sighting took the medical record of a new patient from the nurse behind him. As he looked at it, he said, "Bring bed 3 to do the blood and urine tests again. Bed 17 can stop the needles. He'll be discharged tomorrow morning. When he goes back, ask his family members to keep an eye on him. Don't go out and get exposed to the wind. Stay at home for observation." Bed 22. Hai City Central Hospital was the largest provincial tertiary grade A hospital in Hai City, and even in the nearby provinces and cities. Such a hospital did not have any free time every day. All the medical staff were busy, and it was rare for them to rest. They basically returned to the consultation room, or the duty room, to quickly catch up on 2 hours of sleep. Chin Sighting had performed 2 thoracotomy surgeries from 12 o'clock last night until this morning. There would be another one in the afternoon. He urgently needed to go back and sleep for an hour. Otherwise, he would not be able to perform the surgery in the afternoon. The nurse's station was the only place in the entire hospital where all kinds of gossip and anecdotes often spread. When he returned to the consultation room and passed by the nurse's station, two intern nurses held 2 bags of saline as they pushed the trolley forward. As they walked, they said, "Really? The chairman of Shida Group suddenly passed away just like that? Shida used to be quite famous in High City. I used to buy their company's branded bags. The quality has always been very good. Isn't their chairman only in his 50s? Why did he die just like that? I heard that he died of illness in America." Sai say that Shida Group has always been doing well in High City. Why did he suddenly move his entire family out of High City overnight 4 years ago? Even the company's headquarters were moved to America. Could there be something fishy about this? Even if there's really something, it's not something that ordinary people like us can know. We can only listen to those rich people in gossip news. Who said that? Our hospital's Dr. Chin is the young master of one of the 4 big families in High City. As they spoke, they suddenly felt a gaze that was as cold as an ice house. The 2 nurses turned around and met young Master Chin's gaze. They were so frightened that they quickly stood up straight. Then, they helplessly pushed the rollers and ran away. 9 o'clock in the evening. High City Lishui Villa. The white Porsche stopped in front of the villa, and the man got out of the car. When he came back, he was no longer wearing the hospital's white coat. He was wearing a simple casual suit. The automatic sensor lights in the villa's courtyard illuminated his body with a faint layer of gold. Chin Sighting walked into the villa. After a tiring day, it was rare for him to come back and rest for a night. He habitually opened a bottle of wine and stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window. He looked in the direction of the villa opposite and was about to drink. Suddenly his phone rang. For a sudden call at this time, it must be from the hospital. Chin Sighting put down his wine glass and picked it up. "Dr. Chin." The patient in bed 17 suddenly coughed up blood. He said he couldn't breathe. "Come and take a look." "Got it." Chin Sighting hung up the phone and turned to walk out, leaving a glass of wine on the table by the window. The white Porsche drove out of Lishui Villa district like an arrow leaving the bow. After the car disappeared, a dim yellow light lit up in the window of the villa that had not been lived in for 4 years. Chapter 1435. 9 years ago. It was autumn in High City. The air was dry, mixed with the smell of fallen leaves. The 17-year-old Shi Nianj squatted by the flower bed in High City First High School in a daze. When she called Tang Xiao a few hours ago, he was rushing to the infirmary with their class bell. It was said that the prettiest girl in the class ran 1,500 meters at the school's sports meet during her period. After that, she fell ill and became a Lindayu. Tang Xiao was taking care of someone in the infirmary. He couldn't even be bothered to say a few perfunctory words to his girlfriend. He just casually nodded and continued to ask about the prettiest girl in the class, who was crying on the bed. Shi Nianj hung up the phone. After a few seconds of silence, she sent a text message to announce their breakup. The other party patiently accompanied the class bell for 2 hours before seeing the news. After that, he frantically called her. She did not pick up, and was no longer interested in contacting this person. He could not even be considered a first love, so he could not be considered a broken up. A few months ago, Tang Xiao had confessed to her. After that, the 2 of them had been in a relationship for more than 2 months. Although he was in Year 3 Class 2, and she was in Year 2 Class 2, they were 1 year apart and 1 year apart. However, Tang Xiao's family seemed to have business dealings with their family's company. Their parents and elders had met a few times, and could be considered half an acquaintance. Shi Nianj, who was in her adolescence and felt that she should date, agreed under his pursuit. Tang Xiao's personality was very flamboyant and active. He liked to play basketball, and had many fans on the basketball court. However, Shi Nianj did not really like him. But after all, she had agreed on a moment of impulse. She held on to the principle of being responsible for him, so she maintained an open relationship. She did not hide it from her classmates and friends. The 2 of them had only held hands a few times in private. It was as though they had never even kissed each other on the cheek. They could not be any more innocent. This kind of central air-conditioned type of person, who radiated heat everywhere, was not suitable for her. If it was not suitable, then end it. There was no need to waste time. Tang Xiao was also considered an influential figure in Sea City First High School. It was said that there were many influential figures in their third year of high school. However, she had been influenced by her grandfather since she was young and liked to study medicine. She never paid attention to school matters. Other than going to class, she would go to her grandfather's place to kill time. So she did not know many people. When she was 10 years old, she had developed a new type of medicine with her grandfather, who was a medical professor. She had even won some medical achievement award. Some time ago, her grandfather had developed an anti-cancer drug in the laboratory. Nianj had also participated. Although she was only a helper at most, she was still a participant. In this day and age, everything needed gimmicks. It was said that in order to commend her and curry favor with the Shi family, the school planned to let her skip grades in a few days and jump from a second-year student to a third-year student. She could clearly indulge for another year, but she was asked to prepare for the college entrance examination. The elders of the Shi family actually agreed. Nianj was so angry that there was nothing she could do. In autumn, school had just started. She was about to skip grades and change classes, and she was suddenly faced with the major change of losing her love. Nianj felt that she had to cry or be haggard for a few days to match her current state. Otherwise, she would be too heartless. Therefore, she squatted by the flower bed for a long time, unable to squeeze out a single tear. In the end, she could only put on a bitter face, planning to maintain this expression to complain to a few of her close friends. Otherwise, if her expression was too joyful, they would definitely laugh at her for being careless. She stood up abruptly, but she forgot that she had been squatting here for at least an hour. She stood up too quickly, and her vision suddenly turned black. She staggered and spilled half a cup of milk tea in her hand. At the same time, she bumped into a person who had walked over from some unknown path. In front of her was a dazzling white shirt. Her cup of milk tea had spilled all over his white shirt. She looked at it in astonishment, then raised her head to look at the owner of the white shirt, then lowered her head to look at it, and then raised her head to look at him. The pearls in the cup of milk tea hung on his body and slowly dripped down. Nianj. She did not dare to look at his expression, but she still quickly took 2 steps back from his embrace. She braced herself and apologized. I'm sorry. I didn't do it on purpose. Your clothes were dirted by me. I'll compensate you with one, okay? How much is it? As she spoke, she was about to look for money in her school uniform pocket. The man in the white shirt only looked at her expressionlessly. It was obvious that he despised the dirty things on his body. When he saw that she was about to take out the money without saying anything, he frowned without batting an eyelid. He did not say a word and walked past with a cold expression. Your clothes look very expensive. After all, I dirted them. I don't have any other intentions. I'll compensate you. Nianj's observation skills were also very strong. She turned back and quickly chased after him. Move aside. The white shirt was suddenly blocked by her. When he spoke, his voice was cold and indifferent. It was clear that he did not have much patience. Although he disliked her, he did not intend to argue with her about such a shirt. Nianj was shocked by his cold and distant expression. She stared at his face for a while and blushed for some reason. Damn it. This was definitely the first time in her 17 years of life. She was the daughter of Shida Group. Ever since she was young, she had seen all kinds of rich people and all kinds of good-looking boys. However, this was the first time she had seen such a good-looking one. This person, let's call him White Shirt for now. His face was handsome, his hair was short, and his skin was very white and clean. His entire body seemed to be written with the words "Don't get close to strangers." His aura was cold, and he had the reticence of a young man. His face was good-looking, his figure was tall, and his fingers were also very good-looking. She could still smell the faint fragrance she had smelled when she accidentally bumped into his arms. It smelled like detergent. It smelled very good. For the first time, The 17-year-old girl experienced the feeling of her heart thumping wildly. In the past, she had never liked anyone, nor had she done anything on purpose. However, at this moment, her consciousness was filled with the desire to get to know him. In the end, the only thing he said was, "Get out of my way." After that, he didn't say anything else. When she stubbornly tried to stop him again, and stupidly took out $100 bills and stuffed them into his hand, he looked at her as if she was a lunatic, flung his hand away, and walked around her. Cherniange looked at his back view and thought to herself, "Oh my God, even his back view is so good-looking." She then lowered her head to look at the money in her hand, wondering if she had given him too little money. Otherwise, if she had the chance to see him again, she would find a shirt shop to swipe her card. At least she had to compensate him. But he was really so handsome. Her heart was beating so fast. At that time, Cherniange was still a straightforward girl. A 17-year-old girl was wholeheartedly chasing after her male god Qin. At that time, Dr. Qin had yet to experience the smoothness of growing up. In other words, at that time, Knife Qin was not Knife Qin. He was Qin Gao Lung, a proper flower on a high mountain. It was very difficult to chase after him. Chapter 1436. 3 days later, Monday, Year 3 Class 6, Dean he sent Cherniange in. At that time, it happened to be the form teacher's class. Teacher Zhao stopped for a moment. "Let me tell everyone that this is a new student in our Class 6. It's Cherniange, who won 2 medical achievement awards at the age of 17. She just skipped a grade from year 2. Let her introduce herself, and then continue with the class." The headmaster then patted Cherniange's shoulder and gave her an encouraging look. He then called the form teacher to the corridor and said a few words. Cherniange stood in this new class of the new school year. No matter how she usually behaved, in front of so many unfamiliar classmates, she still felt a little uncomfortable. To say that she was shy, it seemed a little pretentious. To say that she was excited, she was about to rush for the college entrance examination. She didn't even have time to cry about her bad luck. What was there to be excited about? The form teacher, Teacher Zhao, said at the door. "Introduce yourself and choose a seat." Cherniange simply said her name and secretly looked around. She found that most of the seats in the class were full. There was only a quiet girl sitting in the second row in front. The seat beside her was empty. There were 2 more seats at the back. She swept her gaze behind her, and her eyes lit up. White shirt. Wasn't that the white shirt she had been worried about for days? He was actually a senior in year 3. No, she was in the same class as him now. The seat next to him was empty. Usually, there were only 2 reasons for sitting in the back row. Either they were students who were too bad at school and refused to be disciplined, or they were very tall. They didn't want to block the students' line of sight behind them, so they sat in the back row. When she bumped into him that day, she realized that he was definitely more than 1.8 meters tall. Year 3 boys actually had a chance to grow taller. Right now he was more than 1.8 meters tall. In the future, he would definitely be taller. As for why the seat next to such a handsome person was empty, she was not in the mood to think about it. Without even considering it, she walked over and sat beside White Shirt. Cherniange's face was expressionless, but her heart was a little excited. When she put down her school bag, her hands trembled slightly. However, the deskmate she had just chosen gave her a very cold and unapproachable look at this moment. Cherniange mistakenly thought that his deskmate had only applied for leave today. She subconsciously asked softly, "Is there anyone sitting here?" The boy sitting in front of her turned around and mouthed, "No one's here." At the same time, he gestured to her not to sit there. She had lived for 17 years, but this was the first time she had ever thought about a boy. Since there was no one else, how could she not sit? Deskmate, this was a deskmate. She wasn't leaving. Cherniange smiled at the boy in front of her and sat firmly in her seat. She then turned to look at the white shirt beside her. Today, he was wearing his school uniform jacket. Even the white school uniform gave off the smell of a white shirt. So handsome, so handsome. How could there be such a good-looking man? So handsome, so handsome. The man in the white shirt looked at her again, because of her strange and passionate gaze, then turned his head to the side, and did not say a word from beginning to end. Teacher Zhao entered the classroom, and his gaze first landed on the second row. He was surprised that Shi Nianj was not sitting in front. When he saw that she was sitting in Qin Sighting's seat, he subconsciously quickly glanced at the Qin family's crown prince. He saw that the crown prince's brows were filled with dissatisfaction, but he did not show anything. He thought for a moment and said, "All right, sit there first. I'll adjust it later." Shi Nianj nodded, thinking to herself that she wouldn't adjust it. She took out all kinds of new textbooks from her bag one by one. She was actually not a top student. She only relied on the medical achievements that her grandfather had brought her to do. Suddenly, she was in the third year of high school. She definitely couldn't keep up. She didn't really understand what the first class was about. After class, she was called to the office by the form teacher. She told her about the situation in the class, and showed her the report cards of the class and the school year. She pointed at the names of the students who were ranked 5th, 7th, and 10th in the school year. "I know you might not be able to keep up at the beginning. These students are all from our class. You have a lively personality, and should be able to play with your classmates very soon. Usually, find them to study more and ask them to help you. Then, take some time to read all the textbooks in the second year. That way, you'll be able to keep up very quickly." Shi Nianj looked at the report card, and realized that the name of the top student in the school year, Qin Sighting, was also written in grade 3 class 6. She pointed at the name and said, "This is also in our class, right? He's the top student in the school year. Teacher, why didn't you call his name earlier?" Teacher Zhao. "Forget about this." Ah, Shi Nianj did not understand. Seeing that she did not understand the situation in the third year at all, Teacher Zhao sighed and said with a smile, "Student Qin is your deskmate now." The male god was a top student. Shi Nianj very shallowly fell an inch deeper. Earlier on, during class, she had secretly glanced at the person beside her. At that time, he did not look at her at all. She could not see his eyes, but just half of his face was enough to make him look good. After class, she took the opportunity to look at his eyes again. At that time, she almost froze. He was really so good-looking. When he was in class, the coldness on his body would be slightly restrained. The slightly serious and calm expression on his face was even more captivating. Speaking of student Qin, I suggest you change your seat. In the past 3 years, the seat beside him has been empty. Student Qin usually likes to be quiet, and is used to being alone. You shouldn't be able to experience the joy of a third year sitting next to him. Why don't you change to another seat? What fun can there be in the third year? Teacher Zhao. At the very least, you have to get to know the other new students. You probably won't feel the love of classmates from student Qin. No need, I'm not changing. Why not? It might not be appropriate for a lively person like you to sit next to him. It's fine, it's fine. Even if he's an iceberg, I can tolerate it. It's not like there aren't any other seats. Why should I tolerate it? Because he's handsome. Teacher Zhao pushed his glasses and smiled helplessly. Shi Nianj was determined to sit with Qin Sighting. After persuading her for a while, Teacher Zhao was almost amused by her. Children nowadays were really difficult to manage, especially Shi Nianj, a child who had grown up in the Shi family's love. She was even more straightforward, and did not know how to restrain her emotions. With her temper, if she stayed by the young master's side for a week, she would probably cry and ask to change seats. After all, she was the little ancestor of the Shi family. She could not say much and could only wait until she hurt herself. Chapter 1437. However, it was not up to the teacher to decide whether Shi Nianj could sit in that seat for a long time. Although the Qin family's young master had good academic results, and was outstanding in all aspects, it was also true that he was cold, and did not like to interact with others. Their high school was ranked first in all aspects in the country, so in a place like High City, where every inch of land was worth its weight in gold, the children of various large families would also attend school here. They had seen many famous and wealthy families, so they were no longer surprised. However, the Qin family, one of the 4 big families in High City, naturally could not be treated the same as the other famous families. After all, rich people were not all on the same level. Qin Siding's IQ was very high. In fact, other than his low-key and cold personality, there was no other problem. Seeing that his grades were always first, he did not like anyone disturbing him, so the school acquiesced. Thus, in the past 3 years, they did not force him to have a deskmate. Today, Shinian's courage was commendable. She did not even know that Qin Siding was in the 3rd year of high school. She rushed to his side and sat down. When Shinian returned to the classroom, the next class had already begun. It was a history class. Year 3 Class 6 was a science class, so the history class was naturally very relaxed. It was equivalent to a self-study class. She politely greeted the teacher and returned to her seat. Her male god, who was a straight-A student, was writing a physics paper with his head lowered. A few minutes later, he picked up a bottle of mineral water and took a sip. Seeing his movements when he drank the water and seeing his Adam's apple roll slightly when he swallowed, Shinianj could not help but swallow as well. From her angle, she could only see the side of his face. This student Qin really did not like to talk to others. He refused to tilt his face in her direction and had always been doing his own things. He did not feel anything when such a big person appeared beside him. However, this was also good. At the very least, he would not chase her away from this seat. The form teacher said that his personality was too cold, and he did not like to interact with others. Shinianj thought to herself that this had nothing to do with her. She would not provoke him, and would just sit by the side and look at him a few more times every day. A pleasing boy, so handsome, she could endure it no matter what. Being a transfer student was actually a very torturous process. Furthermore, Shinianj was 1 year younger than the students in this class. After class, the other women would go out to the toilet together. The boys would hook their arms around each other's shoulders and chat about games, playing basketball, and where to go after school. Shinianj did not have nothing to do. The only thing she could do was sit in her seat and admire her idol's face. From the beginning to the end, Qin Siding did not look at her. After class, he got up and went out for a while. She did not know if he went to the toilet or the teacher's office for something. In short, when he returned, his expression was calm and nothing could be seen. It was likely that he did not take the initiative to ask the teacher to change her seat. After he sat down again, Shinianj's gaze quietly shifted from the fountain pen on his table to his face. When he wasn't around just now, she had been looking at his pen. It was a pure black fountain pen. When he was using this pen to write the physics paper, his handwriting was very beautiful. She had been peeking her head out to look at it, but now that he was back, she definitely had to look at him. Before class started, she leaned closer to him and said in a low voice, "The shirt you wore last time can't be cleaned at all, right? You really don't need me to compensate." Qin Siding did not even look at her. He did not say a word. Coincidentally, at this moment the bell rang. Shinianj quickly tidied up the books on her desk and took them out. At this moment, a cold breeze blew in from the window beside her. It was not cold. After all, it was just autumn. However, the paper on her desk that she had yet to pick up suddenly flew up and flew past Qin Siding. It then landed by his feet, which was the aisle beside his desk. It was already time for class, so she could not stand up to pick it up. She knew that he was unwilling to pay attention to her, but she had to hand in that paper during self-study in the afternoon. If someone stepped on it or lost it, it would be over. She braced herself and poked his arm with her finger. "That my paper. Can you help me pick it up?" However, Qin Siding did not move as though he did not hear her. Shinianj could only gently tug at his sleeve. "Do me a favor. My paper is over there. If someone steps on it later, I won't be able to write." He was still unmoved. He did not even impatiently retract his arm from the table. Shinianj had no choice. She looked at him for a while, and saw that he really couldn't be bothered to look at her. The teacher was already teaching, so she couldn't make too much of a commotion. She could only turn back and show a big smile to the male student at the table behind Qin Siding. She whispered, "Student, can you help me pick up the papers? Sorry to trouble you." The boy at the back table was a tall and strong fatty. However, even if he was so fat that he could barely squeeze into a seat, he definitely did not dare to push the table forward and squeeze into Qin's sighting. This little fatty usually sat at the back, and very few girls would talk to him. Suddenly, when the beautiful new girl smiled and begged him, the little fatty instantly blushed. He quickly bent down to help her pick up the papers in front of her and handed them to her. "Thank you." Sure enough, other than the iceberg product beside her, the other students still had some love. But who asked Qin's sighting to be handsome? It was enough that he was handsome. If he was not easy to get along with, then so be it. It was not bad to be a pleasing statue and accompany her in class every day. "No, you're welcome." The little fatty stuttered and said with a red face, "My name is Xiaosha." As Nianj took the papers, her eyes lit up as she glanced at Xiaosha. So shy. The little fatty's deskmate was a shy girl who did not like to talk. She suddenly burst out laughing and whispered, "You actually guessed his nickname so quickly?" The little fatty lowered his eyes shyly. Although he was fat, his facial features were actually very good-looking. If he lost weight and worked out, he might become a handsome man in the future. "My name is Nianj. Please take care of me in the future." As Nianj spoke, she took out 2 bottles of yogurt from her bag and gave 1 bottle to Xiaosha and his deskmate Zhao Xiaoqing. Before the teacher noticed their small movements, she quickly turned around and placed the papers back into the desk. Although Qin's sighting ignored her and did not help her pick up the papers, she heard that the fatty behind her could not help but secretly open the yogurt and drink it. She really did not have a good memory. She secretly scolded herself for being shallow, but she could not resist compromising because of his looks. She took out another bottle and secretly glanced at the man beside her. She handed the yogurt over under the desk and gently touched his arm. "Do you want to drink it?" Question. How is Qin Lingling going to chase? Chapter 1438. As soon as she asked, Nianj felt that she had been a little too enthusiastic. However, on second thought, firstly he was good-looking. Secondly, she had dirted his shirt before, so it was understandable for her to be nice to him. Thus, when the other party did not respond, she carefully touched him with the yogurt bottle. Ever since she sat here, Qin's sighting, who could not be bothered to look at her or pay any attention to her, suddenly turned his face. Nianj could finally see his face clearly again. The 18-year-old boy had picturesque features, a sharp face, and a high nose bridge. However, he did not look very sharp and handsome, nor did he have exaggerated thick eyebrows and big eyes. In short, he was the kind that made one's heart flutter. He was so clean and refreshing that it made one feel as though this boy had to bathe hundreds of times every day. She felt that his entire body, even a single eyelash, was as beautiful as a fairy. His cold eyes seemed to be engraved with the distance between him and others. His expression seemed to be a little impatient. Nianj raised the yogurt bottle at him and secretly told him with her eyes that he could drink it after class. However, he expressionlessly and coldly warned her. He then retracted his gaze and did not take the yogurt. Of course, he ignored her. Nianj sighed. As expected, a male god was completely different from Tang Xiao's central air conditioner. He was so good-looking, but his temper was so bad. If only Qin's sighting was more easygoing and could whisper to her and pass each other a note. How good would that be? Just as she was pondering, Zhao Xiaoqing, who was sitting behind her, gently poked her back with a pen. She turned back and saw that Zhao Xiaoqing had handed her a note. Nianj took it and quietly opened it to take a look. On it was written, "You've just been promoted. If you don't know anyone, I can be your friend. Don't always provoke Almighty Qin. It's useless. He usually doesn't care about people. Give up." There was also a cute emoticon on the back of the note where the name was written. Oh, ___. Almighty Qin? Did all the third-year students call him that? Wow. Nianj also replied to the note. There were 2 beautiful and cute words and symbols written on it. Okay. Oh, ___. Oh, this was good. Of course, it was to get to know Zhao Xiaoqing and become friends. As for Qin Sighting, he was simply too handsome. She couldn't bear to give him up. Even if it was just to be a desk mate that she could talk to normally, or an ordinary friend that she could talk to, it wasn't easy for her to wait until the class was over. The teacher left her homework and asked her to do the questions she had explained in class today using the new formulas. It seemed like she had to write down some ideas to solve the questions. Sure, Nianj was relatively good at the liberal arts, but the science subjects were more difficult to begin with. Now that she had suddenly skipped a grade and was promoted, it was even more impossible for her to understand immediately. Taking advantage of the break, she slowly pushed the book in front of her deskmate, who was trying to solve a problem. She leaned over and whispered, I don't really understand this problem. After all, I'm only in the second year of high school. Can you help me list out the formula to solve the problem? Sorry to trouble you. Qin Sighting glanced at her empty book and did not even look at her. He wrote 23 next to her question. After that, he put away his pen and continued to write, ignoring her. Sure, Nianj retracted the book with a dumbfounded expression. She looked at the two handwritten numbers that were simple but beautiful. What did 23 mean? Even if she didn't understand, she knew that the teacher was asking for a formula and a solution, not to calculate a number like a primary school student. Furthermore, even if it was a number, the answer couldn't be 23. However, he was still a male god and a top student. He didn't pay much attention to her, so there must be a reason why he suddenly wrote these two numbers. Sure, Nianj was too embarrassed to continue asking him. She was about to ask Zhao Xiaoqing or Hao Xiuxia when an idea suddenly flashed in her mind. She flipped through a few pages and finally stopped at page 23. This page should be the revision questions from last semester. Sure, Nianj had never learned them, but looking at the formulas listed below, she could understand them. There were several formulas that were similar to the previous question. Did Qin Sighting mean for her to find a solution to these similar questions? As expected of a male god, he taught people how to solve problems so quickly and effectively. He didn't need to waste words. Sure, Nianj flipped the book back to the previous page. Looking at the two numbers on it, all sorts of pink bubbles kept popping up in her mind. It wasn't that he ignored her. At the very least, he would write numbers for her. He wasn't pretending to be cold like other boys. He was just too lazy to talk nonsense with unrelated people. For the first time in her life, she felt that the words 2 and 3 were so beautiful. The creator of the Arabic numerals was really amazing. When Sure Nianj spoke to Qin Sighting again, it was already 3 days after they became deskmates. In the past 3 days, Sure Nianj had completely gotten used to Qin Sighting's coldness and unwillingness to provoke him. Clearly, the students in this class didn't dare to provoke him easily. They didn't even dare to touch his desk. Sure, Nianj felt that this was very good. At the very least, sitting in the area beside him, there weren't so many messy boys and girls coming to disturb her. Occasionally, Hao Xiuxia and Zhao Xiaoqing would talk to her. This peace and quiet was also very good. In the end, when Qin Sighting suddenly spoke to her, Sure Nianj did not react for a long time. Qin Sighting repeated himself before Sure Nianj looked at him in shock. You were talking to me just now. I said stand up. The boy's clear and pleasant voice hid a hint of coldness and impatience, but he still repeated himself. Oh, okay. It was time for class to end. Sure Nianj quickly stood up. Then, she saw him place a black shoulder bag on her seat. This bag looked like it should be his. Sure Nianj looked at him. Even without him saying anything, she could understand what he meant. Usually, no one sat in this seat, so his things were casually placed on the 2 seats. Right now he was silently chasing her away. It had been 3 days. It was time for her to change seats. Sure Nianj glanced at the empty seat next to the girl, who was good at studying in front of her, and did not say anything. Even though she felt that Qin Sighting was really cold, arrogant, and impolite, the number 23 kept echoing in her mind. She then smiled and sat back down, as though the black bag was her own. She did not mind it being placed here. At the same time she said, Is there no more space? Then let's put it here first. Anyway, I usually only sit on half of the chair. I can still put another bag. If you have more, put it here. After all, this was the first time Qin Sighting had taken the initiative to speak to her. Although his attitude was mainly to chase her away, her little heart secretly jumped. And his voice was really nice. Even his expressionless and angry expression was nice. Chapter 1439. Zhao Xiaoqing could be considered Shi Nian's first friend after she was promoted to the third year of high school. Her hair was long, and she was very beautiful. However, her personality was sometimes very shy. She wore a pair of transparent glasses and would blush as she spoke. Her personality was very soft and easygoing. Then did you often help Grandpa in his lab when you were very young? Zhao Xiaoqing felt that Shi Nian was only 17 years old, yet she had won 2 medical achievement awards. She was simply a legend. And my grandfather's personality is very good. Although he's in the medical field, he's actually an old urchin. I like to stick to him since I was young. I was also very curious about his experimental drugs. I knew that if those drugs were developed, they could save many people's lives. At first, I was just curious, but later, my grandfather brought me along. Shi Nian did not hide anything and openly told him about her childhood. Wow, then you'll definitely study medicine in the future. I have this plan. I want to enter a medical university, but I don't know if my parents will agree. After all, my family is in business, and I can't follow my grandfather for the rest of my life. However, studying medicine is my goal. As the two of them were talking, Qin Sighting returned. She didn't know if he had heard the conversation between the two girls, but Shi Nian subconsciously retracted her leg that had just reached under his desk. Her entire back was pressed against the wall by the window. Seeing that Almighty Qin had returned, and that class was about to start, Zhao Xiaoqing did not dare to speak anymore. She only stuck out her tongue at Shi Nian and quickly lowered her head to tidy up the books for the next class. The next class was biology. It was more or less related to medicine. It was one of the classes that Shi Nian liked and could easily understand. She took out the book and turned to see that Qin Sighting did not move. She recalled that his books were usually placed in school. He mainly studied science. These classes like biology were not too important. His books should not be here. She pushed her book toward him and placed it in the middle of their desks. She whispered, "Let's read together." She took this opportunity to turn to look at him. When Qin Sighting was silent, his entire body gave off an unapproachable feeling of coldness and pressure. However, Shi Nian did not feel any pressure. At most she felt cold. He did not speak and only glanced at her book. He was clearly only looking at her book, but Shi Nian felt as though he was looking at her. Her heart thumped twice. How beautiful! She couldn't hold back the excitement in her heart. In the future, if you don't have a book with you in biology class, we can read together. Qin Sighting looked at the book in the middle and did not say a word. Actually, Nian was not very thick-skinned. She just felt that his personality was cold, but he did not hate her or despise her. There were all kinds of people in this world. There was no need for everyone to learn to cater to others with a smile. Besides, as the crown prince of one of the 4 big families in High City, he really did not need to cater to anyone. The next class was physics. Teacher Zhang especially liked to give out papers. Every time he gave her a question, it would be especially difficult. After half a class, he would write down a paper and then hand out the results. Shi Nian's score was shockingly 91. She had just crammed for a few days of lessons that she had never learned in her 3rd year of high school. It was really not easy to pass. As she was very satisfied with her current results, she glanced to the side. She saw that there was a huge 120 on Qin Sighting's paper. The full score on this kind of test paper in class was 120. He was indeed a top student. He could easily finish an entire physics paper in 20 minutes and get full marks. Shi Nian lowered her head to look at her 91 and quickly covered the number with her textbook. Big boss, I can't compare to him. I'd better cover my embarrassment myself. The last class of the weekend. The week after the start of the 3rd year of high school was especially hard. After school, Sure Nianj had just walked out of the school when she saw the commercial car parked outside. She took off the headphones she had just put on to listen to music and walked over. She saw that the window had rolled down. The person who had come to pick her up was the Sure family's driver, Uncle Qin. Miss, Sir and Madam have recently gone abroad to discuss business. There's no one at home. Are you going back to the Sure family to eat or to your grandfather's? Grandfather hasn't been in his own laboratory recently. Hasn't he been holding a seminar with many experts? I won't fill in the blanks at a time like this. I'll go home. Uncle Qin was about to get out of the car to open the door for her, but she had already opened the door and got into the car. After sitting down, she put on her headphones and said, "My parents are usually so busy. Usually, only the auntie who cooks is at home. I don't think I should take such a long drive back on weekends. I can find a house near the school to stay." "How can that be? Miss, how old are you? You're already living outside alone? It's not safe." "What's not safe about it? You can ask Auntie Xiang to come here every weekend to cook for me. Actually, I can eat takeout. But my parents are worried and always ask you to do it. I'm already 17, not 7. If I live near the school, I can save a lot of trouble." Uncle Qin did not speak for a while, as though he was listening to the phone. 2 minutes later he said, "Miss, I've been talking to Mr. Sure on the phone with my headphones on. Mr. Sure said that he can respect your wishes. You can take advantage of this weekend to find a neighborhood with better security facilities near the school. The family can book a house for you at any time for you to stay there first." "Okay." Sure Nianj smiled and did not say anything else. She directly amplified the music in her headphones. Since she was young, she had been considered a family pet. Everyone in the family loved her very much, but her grandmother and grandparents had left early. Only her grandfather doted on her the most, and her parents treated her well. However, because Shida Group's business was getting bigger and busier, the two of them were worried about leaving many of the company's decisions to outsiders. Therefore, they were busy every day. The only thing they could give her was concern over the phone and unlimited money. Uncle Qin and Auntie Xiang usually took care of her the most. She had been used to this kind of life since she was young and understood how busy her parents were. When she was young, she followed her grandfather. When she grew up, she was busy with her studies and became more independent. The villa where the Sure family was located was still too far from the school. It would indeed be best if she could live near the school. Sure Nianj returned to the Sure family's home that night. After finishing a few papers and homework, she called her parents on the other side of the ocean for half an hour. In fact, they asked her if she was not used to being promoted to the 3rd year of high school. She said that everything was fine and only reported the good news. She suddenly jumped a grade, so it would definitely be more difficult for her studies. However, this would be overcome with time. There was nothing much to say. She only said that the teachers and classmates were very good. She also said that her deskmate was a top student and was very warm-hearted. He would guide her in her studies. Her parents were very happy to hear this. Only then did they hang up the phone and continue working. Chapter 1440. When she returned to school on Monday, Uncle Qin had already helped her choose a few houses nearby. He handed her the map and location of the houses for her to choose. That afternoon, she had already chosen and sent a message to Uncle Qin, telling him about the house she had chosen. Uncle Qin said that they would immediately arrange for someone to clean up the existing renovations in the house. As this house had been newly renovated and had been resold not long ago, there was no need to renovate it. Uncle Qin said that he needed to test for formaldehyde and disinfect it. In another 4 to 5 days, which was the weekend, she could move in. It was rare that she did not pay much attention to Qin's sighting. After settling the matter in the afternoon, she turned to look at her deskmate and noticed that he did not seem to be in good spirits today. He would take the opportunity to sleep on the table. Furthermore, he was usually cold enough. Today, it seemed like there was some hostility between his brows. He seemed to be in a bad mood, and the word easily angered seemed to be clearly written on his handsome and cold face. Perhaps because he didn't sleep well last night, his eyes looked more hazy than usual. When he occasionally lowered his head to look at a book, looking at his white eyelids, one could tell how bad his sleep was last night. There were 3 hours of self-study time in the evening. Nianj went to buy a cup of hot milk before the self-study class. As soon as she returned, she saw that Qin Sighting was preparing to take advantage of the self-study class to rest for a while. She quickly went forward and placed the milk on the desk in front of him. A good-looking man could be seen through even the slightest movement between his brows. Qin Sighting expressionlessly looked at the milk on the table, and then at her. Self-study at night will take more than 3 hours. You're so good at your studies. It's fine if you take an hour or two to sleep first. Drink some milk before sleeping. As Nianj spoke, she touched the glass bottle of milk. The temperature is just right. I can drink it. Take it away. I won't drink it. His clear and cold voice was as distant as ever. He didn't sound like a classmate who had been sitting next to him for a week. Her teacher was right. When she sat next to him, she couldn't feel the slightest bit of classmate love. However, looking at his sleepy and hazy eyes, Nianj felt that he looked especially harmless at this moment. She directly said, "Then I'll leave it here first. The teacher asked me to go to the office to make up for the second year's important lessons. I might not be around for the next 3 hours. If you're uncomfortable lying on the table, you can pull my chair over and lie down." With that, Nianj smiled at him. Without waiting for him to speak, she picked up her books and papers and left. When she came back from the teacher's office an hour later with another set of papers, she saw that the bottle of milk was still in the corner in front of his desk. It hadn't been moved at all. The milk must be cold by now. He really didn't drink a single mouthful. However, he still placed it there and didn't throw it away. It could be considered that he didn't trample on her good intentions. He just didn't accept it. Nianj walked over to pick up the papers. As she did so, she looked at him. She saw that he was lying on the desk as though he had fallen asleep. When he slept, his face was facing down. With his arm blocking it, she couldn't see his face clearly. She could only see the young man's clean ears and smooth and beautiful neck lines. She picked up the bottle of milk and went to the supermarket downstairs. She asked the auntie in the supermarket to heat it up, and then quickly took it back. When she returned to the classroom, the second hour of self-study had just ended. Perhaps because Hao Xiuxia was too fat, he bumped into Qin Sighting's desk and woke him up. Right now, he was apologizing with a red face. Qin Sighting's face was clearly filled with dissatisfaction from being woken up, but most of it was drowsiness. Hao Xiuxia apologized by the side for a long time, but he did not speak. He did not even look at him, but his handsome brows were slightly furrowed. It was clear that he was unhappy that he had been disturbed. Seeing that Hao Xiuxia was so frightened, Nianj quickly walked over and shielded the little fatty behind her. She then waved her hand behind her, indicating for him to stop talking and leave first. However, Hao Xiuxia refused to leave with a responsible expression. He even tugged at her. "I'm fine. I'll apologize to Almighty Qin properly. You don't have to worry about it. Can't you see that Almighty Qin is so sleepy right now? He doesn't have the energy to care about you at all." Hao Xiuxia looked at Qin Sighting again, and felt that it was really the case. Just now, he had subconsciously apologized, but Qin Sighting really did not say a word. He did not even glare at him. He had just scared himself. The little fatty immediately scratched his head in embarrassment. "Then I'll go to the toilet first. I still have to study later." Go on, go on." After he left, Nianj placed the milk that had just been warmed on Qin Sighting's table. As she had returned in a hurry, the milk bottle was still a little hot. After standing here and talking for a long time, her palms were slightly red. She secretly pinched her palm and said, "If you think yogurt is unhealthy and don't like it, forget it. You have to drink hot milk. Drink some now. It'll help you sleep when you go home at night. I specially asked the auntie at the supermarket to heat it up again. Just accept my kindness, good deskmate." Perhaps it was because the word good deskmate carried a hint of praise or derision. Qin Sighting still looked at her coldly. Just as he was about to let her take it away, he saw that her hand was slightly red. It was obvious that she had just been scalded. She even secretly held it up, trying to hide it. He retracted his gaze and looked at the milk on the table. He reached out to take it, opened it and drank it. Hey, be careful. It's a little hot. The moment Nianj spoke, she saw that he had already finished it. After all, boys and girls were different. Women drank milk slowly in small mouthfuls, while men drank it in one gulp. Although Qin Sighting looked handsome and refined, he was a cold, straight man in his bones. He either didn't drink it, or he drank it in one gulp. Although it was a little hot, it had been a long time since he had brought it from the supermarket. No matter how hot it was, it wouldn't burn his mouth. He expressionlessly threw the empty milk bottle into the trash can 2 meters behind his seat, and glanced at her. Is that all right? When she met his gaze, Nianj's heart began to pound uncontrollably again. Looking at his rosy face that had just drunk the hot milk, she suddenly chuckled and nodded foolishly. Then go to sleep. I'll continue to go to the teacher's side to make up for my lessons. Qin Sighting did not speak. He retracted his gaze and picked up the papers. It was clear that he did not plan on sleeping anymore. So good a look. Cough, it's really good. He was even willing to drink the milk she gave him. Even though he was still so cold and cheerless from beginning to end, at least he had taken a big step forward. Chapter 1441. At noon on Wednesday, Tang Xiao suddenly found Nianj's class and waited for her outside. He even called a female classmate in to call her out. At that time, Nianj was about to go to the school cafeteria with Zhao Xiaoqing to eat beef noodles. It was mainly because she had never eaten in the cafeteria before. Xiaoqing said it was delicious, so Nianj wanted to go with her to try it. In the end, when she heard that someone was looking for her, and that it was a boy from grade 12 class 2, she knew who it was without guessing. After all, Tang Xiao had called her a few times. First, she had hung up on him. Later, she had blacklisted his phone number. Then, do you still want to go to the cafeteria with me? Zhao Xiaoqing asked softly from behind. It's almost 12 o'clock. Go eat first. I'll go with you tomorrow. Then do you want me to bring you some other food? No need, no need. I'll think of a way to settle it myself later. Nianj blinked at her and waved her hand with a smile. After Zhao Xiaoqing left, Nianj turned on her phone to take a look. Indeed, Tang Xiao had sent her a few messages on someone's phone, saying that he wanted to see her. He had sent one more than an hour ago, and another a few minutes ago. She turned to look at Qin Sighting, who was about to go out for lunch. She suddenly raised her hand and tugged at the cuff of his school uniform. Usually, Qin Sighting did not wear his school uniform all day. He usually wore t-shirts and occasionally, he would wear an especially clean white shirt. He had to wear his school uniform every Monday and Wednesday, as well as some public classes. This morning, there was an activity in grade 12, so everyone was dressed neatly in school uniforms. Of course, Qin Sighting was no exception. Suddenly she tugged at him. Qin Sighting turned back to look at her, and saw that she was still holding onto his cuff. He glanced at her coldly. Let go. Well, we've been deskmates for several days. Can you do me a favor? Nianj looked at him pleadingly. In fact, she didn't have to use such a stupid method. But she really wanted to test if this method was feasible. What if Almighty Qin also hated scumbags? What if he agreed? Qin Sighting glanced at her again and said again, let go. Seeing that he was not even prepared to let her speak, Nianj paused and could only let go. With his sleeves freed, Qin Sighting turned to walk out. Just as he reached the class door, he saw a boy with his school uniform tied around his waist sticking his head out. When he saw someone else coming out, he asked, Is Nianj still in your class? Yes, she hasn't left yet. Tang Xiao nodded. It seemed like she was still planning to hide from him. She didn't come out or reply to his messages. It was already so late. How could she not come out for lunch? You're Tang Xiao from class 2, right? Weren't you? Oh, right. I heard that your previous girlfriend was Nianj, right? It's so strange. Why didn't she get promoted to your class 2? Instead, she came to our class 6. Did the teacher deliberately break them up? A gossipy female student saw Tang Xiao outside the door and asked curiously. Tang Xiao quickly returned a sunny smile and brushed it off. He did not answer directly, and continued guarding the door. At this moment, he saw Qin Shitting standing at the door. The moment their eyes met, the smile on Tang Xiao's face gradually disappeared. He had not forgotten the few points that Qin Shitting had deducted from him during the school ethics evaluation last semester. Qin Shitting was the first in the school year. Although he didn't usually care much, the school had long handed many important tasks to him. He didn't care, but when there was really evaluation and deduction of points, he would take the time to look at the forms and lists. With a few circles and crosses, he could almost decide a student's score for the next semester for the school. Just because he had drunk some energy drinks during the 5,000-meter run last semester, which was not considered a stimulant, Qin Shitting had recorded it and deducted his points. The principal had criticized him by name. Tang Xiao would never forget this matter until he graduated. When Qin Shitting walked past, Tang Xiao only glanced at him. There was no longer a smile on his face. Qin Shitting, on the other hand, walked out without looking sideways. He didn't know if he had heard the conversation just now, but he definitely didn't take him seriously. When Shi Nianj walked out, Tang Xiao was about to think of a way to go in to look for her. But the school rules said that she wasn't in his class. If he barged in without a proper reason, he would definitely be given a demerit. When he suddenly saw her come out, he quickly took a step forward and reached out to grab her wrist. Nian Nian. The corner of Shi Nianj's eyes twitched. She pulled her hand out without a trace and glanced at him. Why are you waiting for me here? I've been looking for you for so many days, and you've blacklisted me. You didn't pick up any other calls. I could only wait for you here, Tang Xiao said as he reached out to pull her, but she dodged. Seeing that she wanted to keep a distance from him, Tang Xiao could only put down his hand. His expression was somewhat innocent. I can explain to you what happened a few days ago. At that time, Suichi fainted in class. She was sitting next to me. As a man, I couldn't just sit back and do nothing when I saw a woman fainting, right? I subconsciously picked her up, but I promise I only sent her to the infirmary. I didn't do anything else. Shi Nianj glanced at him, smiled and did not speak. At this moment, two girls passed by in the corridor. When they saw Tang Xiao, they quickly raised their hands to greet him. Tang Xiao, during Suichi's birthday during the summer vacation, the song Deep Embrace you sang with her in the KTV was really nice. When will you have the chance to sing something else? Why didn't you sign up to sing when the school organized the program? It was clearly very nice. Tang Xiao's expression immediately changed. He turned back and glared at them. The two girls looked at him in confusion. When they saw Shi Nianj standing by his side, they immediately replied with an "oh." As though they knew some unspeakable secret, they dragged out their voices and quickly left. Tang Xiao turned back with an ugly expression. He saw that Shi Nianj was still looking at him with her head tilted and a faint smile, as though she did not take this seriously at all. Nian Nian, really, you have to give me a chance to explain. Nian Nian, really, you have to give me a chance to explain. I've been classmates with Suichi for so long. If I liked her, we would have been together a long time ago. Last summer, it was her birthday, and one of my classmates had a crush on her. But he was too embarrassed to go alone, so he asked me to go with him. That night, I drank a little too much, and when I said I wanted to sing, they pushed me up to sing. I don't know much, and I only know one song that my parents used to sing. I sang it then, and I didn't even notice who was singing with me. Really, you have to believe me. Chapter 1442. It doesn't matter if you believe me or not. What's important is that we've already broken up. I didn't quarrel with you or blame you. I just feel that we're not suitable. Is there a problem with breaking up peacefully? Shi Nianj looked at him indifferently. But I don't want to break up. I'm wronged. Tang Xiao anxiously raised his hand to touch the back of his neck. I really like you. That day in the infirmary, it was the doctor-teacher who asked me to help support her. That's why I didn't have time to call you to make things clear. You can't break up with me because of this misunderstanding. It's not fair to me. Tang Xiao, for the sake of our two families, let's be rational. We'll part on good terms. It's best not to make things too awkward. If we break up, so be it. I don't want too much nonsense and entanglement. Sure, Nianj said softly. But if you say it's not fair, then when someone filmed you singing a love song with another girl and posted it on the school forum, everyone said that I relied on the Sure family's wealth to let you be with me. In fact, the two of you are a couple. I'm just an interloper. Is this fair to me? Also, you've been playing football the entire summer vacation. I didn't look for you much. It wasn't easy for us to meet again. On the first day of our date, you carried another girl to the infirmary. You didn't even explain to me patiently on the phone. I waited for you on the field for the entire afternoon. You took care of someone else in the infirmary. Is this fair to me? Tang Xiao looked like he wanted to cry, but he couldn't. He just felt that her attitude and expression explained everything, as though no matter how he explained, it was useless. I didn't make any principled mistakes, did I? Otherwise, don't break up with me. You can just ignore me for the time being. You can watch my performance. When you forgive me, you can reconcile with me. Tang Xiao, you're in your 3rd year of high school. You're an adult, right? I'll be an adult next year. I'm not a child. Why are you playing childish games? After speaking, Sure Nianj was about to leave. Tang Xiao quickly went forward to pull her in another direction. Sure Nianj staggered and almost bumped into him. She restrained her expression and raised her head to look at him. What are you doing? It's lunch break now. I'll take you to lunch. Let's talk while we eat. Tang Xiao held her hand and refused to let go as they walked towards the stairs on the other side. Sure Nianj couldn't shake him off, and she couldn't make a scene in the corridor. Her expression wasn't good as she lowered her voice and said, "Let go, Tang Xiao, let go. If you go back like this, I'll tell my family that you're pestering me. You know that the reason we met is because our parents have business cooperation. You don't want anything to go wrong, do you? If you're sensible enough, then let go of me. We'll go our separate ways in the future and be ordinary friends. At least no one will feel awkward. But I like you. I haven't fallen in love with anyone else. What right do you have to break up with me just like that?" Tang Xiao suddenly stopped and turned around to roar at her. His roar was full of energy, as though he had suffered a huge grievance. Sure Nianj was suddenly speechless. She didn't feel that she was wrong, but could his roar erase his central air conditioning attribute? At this moment, a figure suddenly walked up the stairs. He was tall and thin, and had the unique handsomeness of a young man. He had already taken off his school uniform, and was wearing a white t-shirt. He was holding a bottle of mineral water in his hand. When she suddenly saw Qin Sighting walking up the stairs, Sure Nianj felt her head swell. There were stairs on both sides of the corridor. There were more people on the right side, and it was quieter on the left side. Qin Sighting usually walked on the quiet side, but he didn't expect to be seen here. Furthermore, it hadn't even been 20 minutes since he left the class. They had already broken up. She suddenly fell in love with the male god, and secretly wanted to treat him well. As long as Qin Sighting's brain was fine, he would definitely be able to tell that she liked him. Regardless of whether he cared or not, he would definitely be able to tell. Now that he suddenly saw her and her ex-boyfriend entangled here, who knew what kind of impression she would leave in his heart? In the past, Sure Nianj was a very unscrupulous person. She never cared about other people's gazes or private discussions. This was the first time she was so afraid of being painted with a strange code name in someone else's heart. She quickly pulled her hand out. Tang Xiao also saw Qin Sighting. The two of them were clearly about 1.8 meters tall when they stood together, and their family backgrounds were not bad. However, when he saw Qin Sighting, he instinctively cowered. Perhaps it was because of the trauma caused by the few points he had personally deducted last semester. At this moment, Tang Xiao did not dare to hold Sure Nianj's hand again. He only looked at her, and used his eyes to beg her to go out to eat with him. At the same time, she gave him a chance to explain and perform. Sure Nianj was not in a good mood. Sure Nianj was not in a good mood. After all, he had seen what had happened earlier. When she saw that Qin Sighting had already walked up and brushed past her, she was too embarrassed to call him. Originally, she wanted him to help her get Tang Xiao away. After all, Almighty Qin still had the right to speak in the 3rd year of high school. In the end, he didn't even give her a chance to speak before rejecting her. Now she couldn't open her mouth. She could only wait for him to leave before explaining everything to Tang Xiao. The tall and thin boy walked past just like that. There seemed to be the smell of mint on his body. Tang Xiao looked at Qin Sighting warily. Seeing that he had already taken a few steps with his back facing him, he looked at Shi Nianj and said, "What do you want to eat? It's already so late. You should be hungry, right? You have to eat every meal on time. If you miss a meal, your stomach will hurt. Don't be angry with me. Let's go eat first." A stomachache is better than nausea. Shi Nianj did not have a good temper to deal with him. She was indeed worried that her stomach would hurt. She picked up her phone and was about to call Zhao Xiaoqing to ask her to pack a lunchbox for her. All of a sudden, a cold voice came from behind. "Didn't you say that you don't know the last question of the physics paper? Come here." The voice was Qin Sighting's. It was still cold and indifferent, but Shi Nianj was momentarily stunned by his sudden words. When she saw Tang Xiao's stunned expression, she turned her eyes and saw Qin Sighting standing there. He was tall and handsome, looking at her indifferently. Shi Nianj instantly reacted and quickly walked toward him, leaving the central air conditioner student Tang Xiao standing there with his mouth agape. But he did not say a word for a long time. She stepped forward and stood by Qin Sighting's side. She couldn't believe that he would actually help her out. Qin Sighting only glanced at her. He was too stingy to look at Tang Xiao as he walked toward the classroom. Shi Nianj quickly followed obediently. Chapter 1443. When she entered the classroom, Shi Nianj was still beaming with joy. When Qin Sighting sat down, she followed. When she sat down, she whispered, "Thank you." Qin Sighting glanced at her expressionlessly. He retracted his gaze and said calmly, "You don't want to solve the last question of the physics paper? Ah, do you want to solve it now? It's still lunch break." Before she could finish speaking, she saw that he was about to stand up. She subconsciously took out the paper from the desk. Solve it now." She had indeed asked about the physics paper in the morning, but at that time, he had ignored her. Earlier, he could have taken a detour and ignored her. He could have used such a reasonable reason to help her out. If he said he didn't do it on purpose, she wouldn't believe him. However, Qin Sighting clearly had no intention of explaining. He stood up and went to the podium in front of him to take a paper that was the same as the one in her hand. He sat back down and wrote the last question in front of her. He then glanced at her. "Do you understand?" His train of thought to solve the problem was not simple at all. But if she had looked at it seriously from the beginning, she might have understood. However, from the moment he sat down again and leaned his head slightly toward her while writing the question, her mind was filled with his clean and soft short hair, as well as the cold fragrance of mint that belonged to him. There was also the man's clean and fair skin, and his beautiful and well-defined fingers that held the pen. Her mind was filled with questions. Why was he so good-looking? How could he be so good-looking? Qin Sighting looked at her and saw that she clearly didn't understand. Her face was slightly red, as though he didn't need her to speak to know what she was thinking when he was solving the question. He put down the pen coldly. I've read it carefully, but I don't understand it very well. Can you help me explain it verbally?" Seeing that he was angry, Shi Nianj quickly said with a strong desire to live. However, Qin Sighting clearly lost his patience. Seeing that she was being pestered, it was already rare for him to make an exception and meddle in other people's business. Now, he had to make an exception and really help her solve the question. In the end, she was still sitting by the side thinking about it. His brain must have been electrocuted to do such a stupid thing. "Really, as long as you tell me verbally, I will definitely understand." Shi Nianj was afraid that he would really be angry. After so long, she had finally built up a little friendship between deskmates. She did not want it to disappear in the blink of an eye. She reached out to pull his sleeve, but she remembered that he seemed to hate others touching him. Her hand stopped in midair. She did not know whether to touch him or not. Her expression was anxious and regretful. Qin Sighting glanced at her and said expressionlessly, "Solve it yourself first. I want to see where the loopholes and mistakes are." Okay. Her idol took a step back. Of course, she followed suit and answered the question seriously. This big question was really difficult for Nianj, who had skipped a grade. Her train of thought was wrong. After reading it, Qin Sighting helped her sort out the wrong direction in her train of thought. He then casually circled a few pages in the physics book that she needed to review. When she finally understood this question, there were only 15 minutes left before the end of the lunch break. You only went out for a while before coming back. Didn't you eat lunch? Nianj asked as she put away the papers. However, boys did not eat slowly like them. It was not strange for them to finish eating in 10 to 20 minutes. Qin Sighting did not answer. He glanced at her again. Did you eat? No. She felt that her stomach was starting to hurt. But now, even if she wanted to take this opportunity to treat him to a meal, it seemed like there was no time. It was impossible for a top student to skip class and go out to eat with her. Just as she was thinking hard, Zhao Xiaoqing came in with 2 steaming buns in her hands. As she walked, she said, Nian, I knew you definitely didn't eat. I specially bought buns from the cafeteria. As Zhao Xiaoqing spoke, she quickly placed the buns on Nianj's desk. Nianj was almost grateful to Zhao Xiaoqing. She gratefully picked up the meat bun and began to nibble on it. As she nibbled, she mumbled, Xiaoqing, I will never forget your kindness. Don't forget it. Don't hurt just because you have a stomachache. After speaking, Xiaoqing returned to her seat. Later, she recalled something and took out a bottle of orange juice from her pocket. Do you want to drink this? Nianj nodded and then shook her head. It's fine. I'll just eat the buns. Drink it yourself. As class was about to start, she ate quickly. She had something in her mouth and could not speak clearly. When she turned back, she met Qin Sighting's disdainful gaze. He also seemed to dislike the smell of buns on her body. He still couldn't be bothered to look at her. His expression was cold and distant, but after all, he had just taught her how to solve the problem. She silently tilted the scales in her heart in the direction of warmth. Although he had a bad temper, he was actually quite warm inside. Seeing the obvious disdain on his cold expression, Nianj coughed. Nianj quickly finished the remaining half of the bun in a few bites. Thankfully, the bun was not big. Otherwise, with her appetite, she might not be able to finish 2 buns. It was probably because her male god was right by her side that she really didn't want to appear wasteful. However, even if it was 2 small buns, she ate them in a hurry, and in the end, she was really stuffed. That afternoon, Nianj did not feel so hungry that her stomach hurt. She was so full that her stomach hurt. Thankfully, the pain was not severe, and it did not show on her face. After holding on for a while, it no longer hurt. Otherwise, she would have really embarrassed herself. On Friday night, Uncle Qin would usually bring her back to the Shi family at this time. Today was different. He was bringing her to her new home. When the car arrived at a villa, she looked at the surrounding villa area in surprise. There's such a luxurious area near High City First High School? I thought this area was filled with apartments for students. Uncle Qin smiled. After all, it's a high school in the province. There are many wealthy areas nearby. This villa is only 10 minutes away from the school. It's very convenient. I remember I chose a duplex apartment. It's not an apartment, it's a duplex villa. At that time, she had only seen some of the interior decorations and did not pay attention to anything else. She did not expect it to be a villa. Why did she live in such a big villa alone? Chapter 1444. This villa was just built last year. At that time, the construction company had a lot of investments from the 4 big families in High City. They were quite rich, so they booked this land to build a villa. The original owner of the villa you chose was one of the developers. However, he had too many properties under his name, so he sold it. The decoration is indeed not bad. No one has lived in it before. I've also hired someone to test it. The air humidity and other aspects are up to standard. You can live in it with peace of mind. After Uncle Qin finished speaking, he drove the car to the courtyard of the villa. Shirnianj wouldn't even mind sleeping on the foldable bed in the laboratory with her grandfather. She would never be picky about these external things. However, Uncle Chin had the mission to take care of her after all. He was always so careful and serious. She did not say much and only nodded. She glanced at the villa inside. Not bad. It's not as exaggerated and luxurious as the Shur family's. The small villa is quite exquisite. Miss, it's because you have good taste. After all, you chose it yourself. Shirnianj smiled. All right, I'll go down and take a look. She only went in to take a look before putting down her bag. Let's do it here. There's no need to waste time. I'm sure it's not too far from the school. Then Auntie Xiang and I will come here often to take care of you. There's no need. Just ask Auntie Xiang to come once a week. I'll take a taxi to school myself. How can that work? Why not? Can you treat me as a child for the rest of my life? In another year, I'll be an adult. It's time for me to learn to be independent. Shirnianj looked around as she spoke. At the same time she looked out. It was already evening, and the sky was much darker. There didn't seem to be many people living in the surrounding villas. It was dark and very quiet. Are there very few people living here? It's not bad. It's almost half occupied. However, the two buildings opposite seem to be empty and unsold. Or perhaps no one moved in after they were sold. Shirnianj nodded and retracted her gaze to continue touring her new house. Then, she began the sad homework and revision life of a third-year high school student. On the first day in the new house, she spent it in a sea of books. On Monday, Auntie Xiang went to Lishui Villa to personally make a lot of walnut cakes for her. She said that she wanted her to bring them to school for her classmates to eat. When Shirnianj came to school with a large and exquisite bag, she attracted the attention of many people. They were all curious about what good things this legendary student, who was also the eldest daughter of the Shur family, had brought. Why was it such an exaggerated big bag? Shirnianj did not expect it to be so big. Along the way, she rushed to the class. After entering, she did not say a word, and began to distribute the items. Thankfully, things like walnut cakes were divided. There were more than 50 students in this class, and each person could get about 3 pieces on average. She did not wait for everyone to arrive, and placed some on each table. Nian Nian. Zhao Xiaoqing waved at her from her seat. Shirnianj smiled at her, and continued to split the items. As she did so, she said, "Why are you here so early? I'm on duty today." As Zhao Xiaoqing spoke, she came over to help her distribute. As she did so, she praised her for quickly becoming familiar with her classmates. She praised Shirnianj for her good personality, and said that she was always too shy and would blush when talking to others. Shirnianj smiled and chatted with her for a while. She then accompanied Zhao Xiaoqing to wipe the floor. After tidying up, almost everyone had arrived. The two of them returned to their seats. Shirnianj casually explained the matter of the walnut cakes to everyone. She only said that it was made by her relatives and was very delicious. She could not finish it herself, so she distributed it to everyone. Everyone was quite happy. However, Shirnianj was unhappy today. She had been looking at the 3 pieces of walnut cakes on her deskmate's table for the entire morning. Zhao Xiaoqing gently poked her back with a pen and whispered, "Come back to your senses. Don't be in a daze. Why are you looking to the side?" Shirnianj sat up straight again, and raised her head to look at the teacher and the blackboard. However, her heart felt empty. She did not know that Qin Sighting would not come today. She had thought that after the weekend, she would be able to sit with her male god again on Monday. However, he was not here today. Hao Xiuxia said that there was a physics competition in the province today. Almighty Qin was representing the entire province, where High City was located. His competitors were all famous top students in the country. The competition would take at least 3 to 4 days. He would definitely not be here for the next few days. It had been hard on Shirnianj for the past 3 to 4 days. Qin Sighting was the reason why she could support herself to come to school with hope every day. As long as she thought of a tall, fair, good-looking and top student sitting by her side, she would be filled with motivation. No matter how difficult the lessons were, she would be willing to make up for it. However, he was not around these few days. Even Zhao Xiaoqing, and how Xiosha realized that in the past few days when Qin's sighting was not around, Niange was especially listless. Even when the teacher asked her to go to the office to make up for the lesson, she had a sad expression on her face. She was not as motivated as usual. She finally made it to Tuesday afternoon's physical education class. For 2 whole days, Niange, who did not have a male god sitting beside her, was like a person who had just been sucked away by a demon. She sat there listlessly and wrote notes. As the name suggested, physical education class was a free activity class. Only a small number of people really went out to class. Most of them found opportunities to stroll in the classroom or on the field. Niange was called out by Zhao Xiaoqing to go to the toilet. When she turned her head on the path outside the toilet, she saw that class 3-2 was also having physical education class. Suichi was walking over with another girl. When she saw Niange only glanced in her direction casually. However, Suichi turned her head away and pulled the girl beside her to quickly walk around her. Niange raised her brows. She did not understand why she had to take a detour. She was not interested in the matter between Suichi and Tang Xiao, nor did she care about Tang Xiao's explanation. However, Suichi looked like she minded something. It was impossible for her to say that she did not have any other thoughts. Only she knew if she had a guilty conscience. Niange could not be bothered with her, and continued to wait for Zhao Xiaoqing. When they came out, the two of them left the toilet and walked along the lush path in front of them. The 2 girls chatted as they walked. Although Zhao Xiaoqing was shy, she was actually very gentle and concerned about her friends. She was also very observant. She asked, "Do you like Almighty Qin?" That's right. It was originally a private discussion between the 2 girls about whether they liked each other or not. However, Niange's answer was too straightforward and calm, leaving Zhao Xiaoqing stunned for a moment. Chapter 1445. Zhao Xiaoqing said in surprise. "When you were with Tang Xiao, didn't you never hide it? That's why many people know. There's nothing to hide. At our age, it's normal for us to like anyone." "Do your parents know?" "I know. They are more open-minded about my matters, including if I want to have a boyfriend and have someone I like, I can tell them." "Wow, then your parents are so nice." "Tang Xiao's parents have some business dealings with my parents, but we haven't spent much time together. It's already over." "Why?" "Many people know that you dated Tang Xiao in the past. As for Almighty Qin, it doesn't matter if he knows or not, because I feel that he doesn't seem to be interested in what others say. However, it's not good for you to have such rumors." As Zhao Xiaoqing spoke, she turned back to look in the direction of the toilet. She then leaned close to her ear and said, "I didn't remember this, but I remembered when I saw Suichi from class 2. "What rumors?" Niange was slightly surprised. "Suichi told the girls in her class that it's because your family background is too good and your personality is too strong. You suppress Tang Xiao everywhere. Tang Xiao doesn't like your personality and gradually ignores you. Then because he brought her to the infirmary once, you fell out with Tang Xiao. You were jealous and split up, saying that she was innocent or something." Hearing this, Niange did not say anything. She stood where she was and heard footsteps behind her. She turned back and saw that Suichi and another girl had already come out together. Seeing that they had not gone far, Suichi's expression paused for a moment. She still wanted to take a detour. This time, Niange walked toward her and blocked her path in front of Suichi. She looked at her but did not speak. Suichi's expression instantly turned flustered. "What are you doing?" Zhao Xiaoqing thought that something was going to happen. She rushed over to pull Niange, only to see that she was standing there motionless with an unknown smile on her lips. When she saw Niange raise her hand, Zhao Xiaoqing quickly closed her eyes. In the end, she did not hear her hit anyone. When she opened her eyes again, she saw Niange plucking a small leaf from Suichi's head. She then turned to look at the lush path around her. Although it's autumn, High City hasn't reached the point where there are fallen leaves everywhere. It's really not easy for this leaf to fall on your head. Suichi's expression froze when she raised her hand towards her. and she still hadn't come back to her senses. Nianj casually patted the fallen leaves on her hand and glanced at her. If you're not feeling well, don't come out and walk around. The wind has been quite strong these few days. Suichi stared at her blankly for a long time, and the girl next to her also tugged at her arm nervously. The two of them hurried away with ugly expressions on their faces. After he walked away, Zhao Xiaoqing quickly came over. You scared me to death. I thought you were going to hit her. Why would I hit her? To deal with such a person, hitting her is helping her. Nianj looked indifferent. She's afraid of me, so she only dares to gossip behind her back, to clear her name of stealing someone else's boyfriend. Anyway, I don't have any feelings for Tang Xiao. She can do whatever she wants as long as she doesn't touch my bottom line. Zhao Xiaoqing looked at her in confusion. Seeing her terrified and confused expression, Nianj really wanted to pinch her face, but she held back. Let's go back to the classroom. Nianj waited for several days, and finally saw Qin Sighting return on Thursday morning. The tall and thin boy held a black shoulder bag in one hand, and sat expressionlessly by her side. Nianj's heart, which she thought would be very calm, began to beat wildly for a while. Her breathing quickened. After pondering for a while, she whispered to him, "You're back from the competition?" Qin Sighting glanced at her, and did not answer. "Then what should we do if you haven't come to class for the past few days? Do you need notes?" When she saw the teacher enter, she lowered her voice, and quickly took out her class notes to show him. In the end, she only opened the notes and pushed them onto his desk. Qin Sighting glanced at her notes indifferently. His originally expressionless face became even more indifferent. It seemed like he had been despised. Nianj's handwriting was considered beautiful. Her handwriting was graceful and neat, but her class notes were written very much like a primary school student's. It could be considered to have exposed the gap between her learning and his in every class. Ahem. If you don't need my notes, I'll borrow one from the class monitor. No need. Qin Sighting retracted his light and said indifferently. Then what about the classes you missed? Qin Sighting was used to being silent. He rarely explained anything to others, especially girls. He then looked at Nianj, whose eyes had been shining ever since he came back today, as though she had waited for some treasure. For some reason, he was surprised by her unabated enthusiasm. I've already read this week's classes over the weekend. Qin Sighting lowered his head and pushed her notes back. The moment he lowered his head, he seemed to blink. The moment he lowered his head and blinked, Nianj felt as though she had been shot in the chest. She felt as though every time she looked at him like this, she would roar in her heart. How can he be so good-looking? She could not come back to her senses for a moment. She reached out to take the notes back, but suddenly recalled that when he pushed the notes back, his hand seemed to have touched her notebook. In an instant, Nianj seemed to have held something very sacred and quickly, and carefully kept it. You actually read it yourself, she muttered with a look of admiration. You don't need the teacher to teach you in class. You can just read it yourself. Can you really understand it? Qin Sighting rarely glanced at her. That gaze was clearly saying, do you think I have the same IQ as you? Although there was nothing wrong with his gaze, and it was even a little ambiguous, Nianj felt very disappointed. All sorts of pink bubbles began to appear in her heart. In the past, he would not even bother with her words. Even though he was still cold and silent, he was at least used to her as his deskmate. Occasionally he would even throw her a look. As long as she persevered a little longer, he would become more and more accustomed to her existence. In the future, he might really become good friends with her. As a male god, she liked him, but she did not dare to ask for too much. She did not dare to blaspheme him mentally. However, if they could be friends, they could often talk and chat in the future. If he could smile at her, she would probably ascend to the heavens. Chapter 1446. Nianj thought that Qin Sighting was probably afraid that she would go to heaven, so he wouldn't smile at her. Furthermore, he didn't seem to smile much. When he spoke to the teacher, his expression was also indifferent. After class, She still wanted to talk to Qin Sighting, who she hadn't seen for days, but he stood up and left. It was still morning. There was still a whole day. It didn't matter. It didn't matter. In the end, for the entire morning, he listened quietly in class. After class he left. Listening to the discussions of the other students in class, he seemed to have gone to the principal's office. It should be about the competition that he needed to discuss with the principal and the others. At noon, Shi Nianj still wanted to say something, but Hao Xiuxia's face was pale as he lay on the table and hummed because he had eaten too much. Shi Nianj turned back and saw that Zhao Xiaoqing had gone out to buy food. She was not around, so she could only send him to the infirmary with the class monitor. The class monitor was in charge of supporting him, and she helped carry his things. As she walked, she asked him what he had eaten in the morning. After asking, she found out that this little fatty had eaten 6 meat buns in one go before coming to school in the morning. In the morning, he felt uncomfortable in his stomach. He thought it was just flatulence, so he specially bought 2 bottles of Sprite to drink. He wanted to burp to release his breath, and then his stomach was full for the entire morning. Earlier, he really couldn't take it anymore. He went to the toilet to vomit once in the previous class, but now, he still wanted to poop and vomit. He felt like he would collapse at any moment. Even though Shi Nianj had not officially studied medicine, she knew that this was food accumulation. She helplessly went to the infirmary and asked the class monitor to take care of him. She went to look for the infirmary teacher, who was eating in the office. After explaining the situation, the teacher came over to take a look and confirmed that it was indeed food accumulation. He needed to rest in bed and take medicine. If it was too serious, he might have to go to the small hospital outside the school for an injection. The class monitor felt that there was no need for Shi Nianj, a girl, to follow, so he volunteered to go and let her return to class first. Shi Nianj helped send him to the hospital outside the school, and then returned. When she walked back to the school gate, she suddenly saw a familiar figure from the corner of her eye. She turned around and saw Qin Sighting walking out of the school gate. Right now, he was not wearing his school uniform, and there was no one by his side. She only knew that he seemed to have a good relationship with a brother in school, but they were not in the same class. Furthermore, he was usually too busy and did not have time to gather in school. She was looking in his direction. Qin Sighting had already walked to the parking lot outside the school. She observed from afar and saw that there seemed to be a black car parked there. After he walked over, someone came down to open the car door and respectfully invited him in. After he got in, the car door closed and he disappeared. It was probably the Qin family's car. He parked it in a corner of the parking lot. He just waited there and didn't go into the school to alert the teachers and students. He was very low-key. Shi Nianj recalled Hao Xiuxia's pale and pained expression earlier. Although the teacher had prescribed a digestive tablet for him, it was clearly still too uncomfortable. She glanced in the direction of the car and turned to enter the pharmacy to see if there were any other medicines that could relieve the pain of indigestion. There were many kinds of Jianwei Shaoshi tablets in the pharmacy. She knew about the drugs and some scientific names. After standing in front of a row of drugs for more than 10 minutes, she was about to pick up a drug from a well-known pharmaceutical factory when another person came into the pharmacy. Is there any medicine that can relieve cholecystitis? Shi Nianj did not turn back. After all, he was not asking her. However, when she turned around, she suddenly saw the person who had just entered in a small mirror in the middle of the pharmacy. She immediately turned back to look at him. Wasn't this the person who had helped Qin Sighting drive in the parking lot? From his clothes, he should be the Qin family's driver or butler. Cholecystitis? Is it suddenly very painful? The person at the pharmacy counter asked. Yes. Our madam was in the car when her cholecystitis suddenly flared up. Her face turned pale, and she said she was dizzy. Then, her stomach and gallbladder felt uncomfortable. The pain was very serious. After Shi Nianj heard this, she did not speak, because she heard him say madam. Could it be that there was someone else in the car? Qin Sighting's mother? Wow! She was so envious of people who could see their parents often. She had thought that someone like Qin Sighting, who was cold and unsociable, was like her, who often did not have parents by her side. In the end, Mrs. Chin would come to school to visit him. She was really envious. The driver left in a hurry after buying the medicine. Earlier, Shi Nianj had seen the shop assistant in the pharmacy take out the most expensive medicine on the counter and give it to him. She guessed that he had heard about the car or the madam and felt that the other party was rich. Furthermore, in a pharmacy, no matter how effective the medicine was, as long as it was written on it, as long as the price was expensive and the commission was high, they would definitely take out the expensive ones to sell. Shi Nianj did not say anything. She only placed the medicine she had chosen on the counter. She then turned around and bent down to pick up the second last row of medicine. She brought it over to pay the bill. The shop assistant saw the medicine she was holding and asked curiously, "Didn't you say you were buying medicine for your classmate? Your classmate has cholecystitis at such a young age?" Shi Nianj did not answer. After paying, she went out. She first sent the medicine to Hao Xiuxia and the class monitor before walking to the parking lot to the black RV. She stood there for a while and did not suddenly knock on the car door. The driver recognized her and rolled down the window to look at her. "Little girl, you've been looking in this way. Is something the matter? I think I saw you at the pharmacy earlier." Shi Nianj then walked over. "Uncle, I'm Qin Sighting's classmate. Just now, I heard that someone here seems to have a serious case of cholecystitis. I've learned some medical and pharmacology from grandfather. The box of medicine you bought earlier wasn't very effective, so I bought this and sent it over." Just as she finished speaking, the car door behind her opened. Qin Sighting and a well-maintained middle-aged woman were sitting in the back. Qin Sighting glanced at her. It was clear that he could not understand why she was here and how she knew he was here. "I saw you outside the school gate just now. Hao Xiuxia wasn't feeling well, so I went to the pharmacy to buy medicine for him. I heard what the driver said when he went to the pharmacy to buy medicine and saw that the medicine he took wasn't very effective, so I couldn't help but buy something else." Seeing that Qin Sighting's expression was not very good, Shi Nianj realized that the person in the car was not his mother. Then, he realized that he was being a busybody to the point that he was being annoying. Seeing his unhappy expression, she hurriedly said, "Did I disturb you? I just can't stand the way the people at the pharmacy are doing things. I'll put the medicine down and leave." As she spoke, she quickly handed the medicine to the driver. The driver received it warmly and even thanked her. Before Shi Nianj could reply, Qin Sighting had already gotten out of the car. He did not say anything more to the middle-aged woman in the car. He suddenly reached out and grabbed her wrist. Before she could react, he brought her away. Chapter 1447. Shi Nianj felt a very clean and warm feeling on her wrist. The cold, tall, and thin boy was almost a head taller than her. She was clearly 1.66 meters tall. But Qin Sighting looked like he was really more than 1.85 meters tall. Clearly, she had only taken a quick glance at him. Now that she was pulled away by him and followed behind him, she realized that he was really tall. After being pulled away, she only had time to turn back to look in the direction of the driver. She did not speak again. She was brought by the strong force on her wrist to the walking path, under the high wall outside the school. There were students from other classes coming and going on both sides. They seemed to have seen that she was holding Qin Sighting's hand. They had already sent many curious, surprised, and gossipy gazes over. Qin Sighting retracted his hand and looked at her indifferently. "What exactly do you want?" At this moment, he maintained a distance of 2 or 3 people from her, as though the person who had led her here was not him. Shi Nianj still felt that her wrist was warm. This warmth spread all the way to the bottom of her heart. She inadvertently touched her wrist again and raised her eyes to meet his cold gaze. Was the person in the car earlier an auntie? Qin Sighting glanced at her coldly. "Yes. I really just happened to see you in that car and saw Uncle Driver buy medicine. You know why I skipped a grade to year 3? I know pharmacology. I was afraid that if Auntie took that medicine, it wouldn't have any effect and would hurt even more. So I bought the medicine and sent it over. I don't have any other intentions. If my actions have disturbed you, I apologize. I won't do it again. Sure, Nianj now felt that although she had good intentions, she was indeed too abrupt. She also regretted her rashness. Qin Sighting took out a black wallet. How much is the medicine? The sincere apology and smile on Sure Nianj's face instantly disappeared. He was drawing a clear line between them. He did not intend to owe her a single cent. There's no need. I even dirted your shirt last time. Compared to your shirt, the money for my small box of medicine shouldn't be much. Qin Sighting paused as though he had recalled the matter of the shirt because of her words. He placed the wallet back and said lightly, "All right, we're even." As soon as he finished speaking, he turned around and left. He had no intention of continuing to speak with her. Hey, hello. We've been desk mates for a long time. You don't have to keep pushing me away, do you? We're all classmates, and we don't have any goals. Can't we just be friends? Sure Nianj quickly followed him without hesitation. She walked quickly behind the boy and said, "Communicating normally once in a while is better than looking at each other coldly every day, right?" Qin Sighting did not turn back. Sure Nianj continued to follow unwillingly until they reached the school gate. The students who had bought lunch nearby all looked in their direction. Qin Sighting's name was already very famous in this school. Other than her, who used to be a little fool who didn't care about the outside world, there was really no one who didn't know him. Sure Nianj was also famous because of this special case of skipping a grade. The two of them walked outside the school gates one after another, inevitably attracting attention. He still did not turn back, as though he did not hear at all. Sure Nianj had no choice but to quickly step forward to hold his arm. She almost held onto his arm and tugged at him forcefully. If you really want to be even, that's fine. Let's not talk about the money, but I missed my lunch break to help Auntie buy medicine. It's almost time for class, and I haven't eaten yet. You owe me a meal. Find a chance to return it. Qin Sighting paused and turned to look at her as though she was crazy. He then looked at her hand that was holding his arm. He did not respond to her suggestion, and his eyes were filled with displeasure. His voice was cold as the autumn night. Let go. She did not let go, but her desire to live was strong. How about this? Forget about treating me to a meal. My requirements aren't that harsh. You know that I skipped a grade. I've fallen behind in many of my sophomore classes. No matter how much time the teacher takes to help me with my tutoring, I still fall behind a lot. It's very difficult for me to study now. I'll go to the school library in the afternoon. Come with me. Qin Sighting's brows were already filled with impatience. He looked at her coldly and did not speak. Seeing that he had no intention of leaving immediately, Sure Nianj slowly retracted her hand. However, she still carefully tugged on his sleeve. Based on your experience, go to the library and help me find a book that's suitable for me to read right now. It's fine as long as it's a book that can help me quickly make up for my lessons. I swear I won't take up more than half an hour of your time. Just go during self-study in the afternoon, okay? He still did not speak. She gently tugged on his sleeve again. 15 minutes is fine. You can help me find a few books and leave immediately. There's no need for you to accompany me there. Isn't that enough? After all, we're classmates and deskmates. Even without today's incident, you should help me on account of our deskmates' friendship. Otherwise, you're the top student in the school year, and you're sitting next to a flunky who hasn't even finished her second-year classes. It won't be good for you. You can change your seat. After saying that, he pulled out his sleeve and left without anyone noticing. Sure Nianj. This kind of person who was unmoved by force or persuasion was really difficult to get along with. She recalled her teacher's words again. How long could he last? She looked at the boy straight and cold back and took a deep breath. Forget it. He was so handsome. So what if he had a little personality? So what if he was a little cold? Aloofness was the standard of a male god. Forgive him, and forgive him. In the afternoon during self-study time, it was the teacher who suggested that Sure Nianj go to the school library to find books to read. She really had to go. She turned back and saw that Hao Xiuxi's seat was empty. He was still lying in the small hospital and had yet to return. Zhao Xiaoqing was buried in her weekend homework alone, so she couldn't disturb her. She could only go by herself. The school library wasn't small, and it wasn't easy to find books. She asked the librarian for the location of some books related to Year 2's curriculum. When she went over, she saw a few tall bookshelves and rows upon rows of thousands, or even tens of thousands of books. Her head swelled. Most importantly, the bookshelves were too high. She borrowed a small ladder from the librarian and climbed up and down the bookshelves. After searching for a long time, she still couldn't figure out which type of book was most suitable for her. On the surface, the introductions and covers of the books were similar, but the inside was actually different. It was really difficult to find. Chapter 1448. Nianj carried the ladder to the other side and saw that there was a slightly higher position. She placed the ladder by the side and tiptoed to stretch her arms. She couldn't reach it, so she could only turn back to take the ladder. Suddenly, someone stood beside her. She turned around and saw that the book she had been tiptoeing for a long time had suddenly been handed to her. She looked up and saw Qin Sighting. Qin Sighting. She was surprised and blinked her eyes. After confirming that the person in front of her was indeed Qin Sighting, who had rejected her in the afternoon, she suddenly reacted and quickly reached out to take it. "Thank you." The tall and thin man turned back indifferently and took out another book from the bookshelf. After flipping through a few pages, he handed the book to her. "Take it." "Ah. Oh. Nianj was still in a daze and instinctively took it. Seeing her silly expression, Qin Sighting only glanced at her and turned to go to the other bookshelves. Nianj quickly followed him and found that many of the books that she often used did not need to climb so high. They were all at the bottom, where it was easy to reach. She followed him all the way and did not ask anything. She did not speak much and took the books he gave her. She followed him with a serious and obedient expression. In the end, there were already 6 or 7 books in her arms. Seeing that she could not carry them anymore, Qin Sighting turned back to look at her. Nianj quickly put on a smile, her eyes curved into crescents. "Anything else?" It was obvious that she could no longer carry them. Qin Sighting stood in place and did not speak. He casually picked up a book related to high school physics from the bookshelf and began reading. It seemed like this book had nothing to do with her, but after all, he was here. Nianj waited patiently by the side. After a while, her hands were trembling as she held the book. As though he did not see it, Qin Sighting put the book back and picked up another to read. Nianj took a deep breath and continued to wait with a smile. After waiting for a few more minutes, she really could not carry it anymore. There were so many books that added up to at least 10 kilograms. She had been holding them for more than half an hour. Qin. The name was at the tip of her tongue, but she suddenly did not know how to call him. It seemed like everyone was used to calling him Almighty Qin, although he did not pay much attention to this title. The girls in the first and second year would discuss Senior Qin with red faces. As for her, it seemed like she could call him Senior, but it did not seem appropriate. She also felt awkward calling him Almighty Qin. How about calling him Deskmate? It seemed too childish. Just as she was thinking, the boy's cold and clear voice sounded. "Qin Sighting." She abruptly came back to her senses and looked at him. She saw that he was still standing by the bookshelf, reading a Year 3 physics book. His eyelids did not even lift, but the voice just now was definitely directed at her. She quickly said, "Qin Sighting, do I have enough books?" The boy standing by the bookshelf did not answer, as though he did not hear her. After about 2 minutes, Nianj planned to place the book on the table at the back. Just as she took half a step back, Qin Sighting closed the book in his hand and glanced at her indifferently. She immediately stopped in her tracks. "Why are you sitting next to me?" he asked. Nianj looked at him. "Because your grades are good. You're the top student in the school year. I jumped a grade from the second year of high school and need a top student by my side to help me. Just like now, when I don't know what to read, you'll help me look for it. This way my grades will definitely be fine." Qin Sighting looked at her coldly. It was clear that he had no patience for her nonsense. She swallowed and could only cough. "Because you're good looking." The tall, skinny boy raised his brows and looked at her again. Sure, Niange's expression was a little timid, but there was a hint of calmness in her timidity. Everyone loves beauty. Who doesn't like good-looking people, don't you think? When I'm too sleepy or bored in class, I just need to turn to look at you, and I'll immediately be energized. Qin Sighting looked at her indifferently and did not speak. Sure, Niange did not know if she was being rude, but he did not like to hear lies. To be honest, if he felt that there was a problem, he could only blame himself for being too difficult to please. He placed the book back on the bookshelf and walked up to her expressionlessly. He picked up the 5 books in her hand and left only one in her hand. He turned to walk out. Let's go. Sure, Niange looked at the thinnest book in her hand and then at the especially thick books in his hand. Her lips curved up and she quickly followed. Just as the two of them were about to walk out of the bookshelf, the bucket of water by the feet of an auntie, who was cleaning in the library, suddenly flipped over and dripped all over the ground. The librarians by the side saw it and rushed over in fright when they saw that the books at the bottom of the bookshelf were about to be wet. In the end, because they were too anxious when they rushed over, they did not notice that there were 2 students under the bookshelf. They bumped into the ladder that Sure Niange had placed in front of them, and the ladder fell toward Qin Sighting. Qin Sighting turned to see it. Just as he was about to dodge, he heard a low cry from behind. Be careful. In the next moment, just as he was about to dodge to the side, Sure Niange hugged him from behind and quickly pushed him under the bookshelf. The girl who was a head shorter than him decisively pounced in front of him and pressed him against the bookshelf in a protective manner. The ladder fell by their feet, making a moderate sound. The librarian was so frightened that he rushed over to support the ladder, complaining that the cleaning auntie was so careless. Qin Sighting and Sure Niange, who were under the bookshelf, were silent. Sure Niange, who realized that she had hugged her male god and even pushed him against the wall. Qin Sighting, who realized that not only had he been pressed against the bookshelf by a girl in a protective manner, but the girl's entire body, including her chest, was pressed against him. In the eyes of others, the two of them looked like they were secretly hugging in the library. When the librarian picked up the ladder, she glanced over and left. She clicked her tongue and whispered to the auntie beside her. Young people nowadays, they're only in their 3rd year of high school, and they're already secretly dating. They actually came to the library for a secret date. Sure Niange's reaction was very fast earlier, but now, her reaction was completely sluggish. Especially when she heard the auntie's whispered words. Her face turned red without giving her any face. She felt the heat extend to her ears. Liking a male god was a feeling. This feeling of hugging a male god was very different. Chapter 1449. She raised her head awkwardly and saw Qin Sighting standing expressionlessly under the bookshelf. His expression was still indifferent. Can you let go? Sure Niange looked down and saw that her hand was still pressed against Qin Sighting's arm. It could be seen how domineering she was when she suddenly pounced on him and pressed him under the bookshelf. She quickly retracted her hand and took a big step back. I saw that the ladder almost hit you so. Qin Sighting did not speak, nor did he explain if he could avoid the ladder faster than her. He took the 5 books in his hand and left. Under the gazes of the librarians, Sure Niange could only lower her brows and follow him out. Behind her the aunties whispered, "But this pair is quite beautiful. The man is handsome, and the woman is beautiful. But friends of this age probably won't have a chance to be together when they grow up. What a pity." Sure Niange pretended not to hear and jogged to keep up with Qin Sighting. He was tall and had long legs. If she wanted to catch up to him, she really had to run. Just as she was about to return to class for self-study, the form teacher, Teacher Zhao, happened to walk out of the office. When he saw Sure Niange walking back with Qin Sighting, his gaze was clearly surprised. Qin Sighting saw the teacher and did not say anything. Sure Niange was afraid that the teacher would misunderstand, so she quickly said, "Teacher, the books you asked me to find, Student Qin accompanied me to the library to help me find them. These are the books." What surprised teacher Zhao was that not only did Qin's sighting return with her, but he also seemed to have accompanied her to the library. When did this kid learn to help others? He had never seen such a scene in 3 years. It's good that you found them. It's self-study time now. Follow me to the office to continue your lessons. All right. Sure, Nianj responded and quickly took the book from Qin Sighting's hand. At the same time, she smiled at him to express her gratitude. However, Qin Sighting acted as though he did not see it, and returned to the classroom indifferently, as though nothing had happened. Sure, Nianj did not dare to look at him again. She turned around and carried the book to the teacher's side. When she was at the teacher's place, she was thinking that since Qin Sighting had helped her find the books, should she treat him to a meal? However, it seemed like the reason why he came to help her find the book was because she said that he owed her a favor. He probably wanted to clear the debt completely. Even if she offered to treat him to a meal, he probably wouldn't go. Just like that, she spent the self-study period with the teacher, hesitating whether she should ask him or not. Finally, the teacher let her go and allowed her to return to the classroom. She ran back with a few books, only to see that the seat next to her was empty. Zhao Xiaoqing waved at her. Sure, Nianj walked over and put the book down. She glanced at the seat next to her. Qin Sighting's shoulder bag was not there. Nian Nian, come back to your senses. Stop looking, stop looking. Almighty Qin left long ago. He left long ago? Didn't you just finish studying? I don't know. He should have something to do in the afternoon. It should be more than an hour ago. He left after answering a phone call. Zhao Xiaoqing thought back and said, however, Almighty Qin usually doesn't skip classes unless there's an open competition or activity in the school that he has to participate in. There should really be something going on this afternoon. More than an hour ago. That was after accompanying her back from the library. She recalled that his expression was not good when he was in the car at noon. Could it be that something really happened? He was no longer in school, so why was she still thinking so much? The Qin Corporation was big, and didn't need a little girl like her to worry about it. In short, she really couldn't treat him to a meal. Zhao Xiaoqing asked her to go to the side street, near the school, to buy clothes tonight. Sure, Nianj lived alone now. Since she had nothing to do, she agreed. The two of them walked out of the school gate, and were about to turn right when a black Cadillac suddenly drove over, and stopped in front of them. Zhao Xiaoqing was stunned, but the moment the car stopped in front of her, Sure Nianj paused. She looked up and saw the smiling face inside when the car window rolled down. Nian Nian, I'm your Uncle Tang. I haven't seen you for a long time after the Spring Festival. Coincidentally, we came to school to visit that brat, Tang Xiao, on the way today. We wanted to see you as well. After all, your parents aren't in the country right now, and there's no adult by your side to take care of you. If there's anything, you have to tell me. Sure Nian's expression did not change. Only the corners of her lips curved into a polite smile, but the smile did not reach her eyes. Hello, Uncle Tang. Hey, good child, have you eaten tonight? When Tang Xiao comes out, Uncle will treat the two of you to dinner. There's no need. I have an appointment with my classmates. Zhao Xiaoqing happened to be holding her hand and walking with her. Sure Nianj turned to look at her. We still have to go shopping, right? Zhao Xiaoqing didn't understand what was going on, but from Sure Nian's eyes, she could tell that she didn't want to go with this Uncle Tang. She immediately said, yes, didn't you say that the clothes I bought aren't suitable for me, and that you want to help me choose? In a few days, there will be supplementary lessons at night. If you miss today, you won't have time to go again. Sure Nianj turned to look at Tang Xiao's father in the car. Uncle Tang, I'm really sorry. Next time, when my parents return from abroad, if they ask me to go with them for dinner, I'll definitely be there. Tang Xiao's father also smiled. Is that so? It's fine. You have to eat first when you go shopping, right? Tang Xiao is about to come out. Why don't I treat the few of you, including your little classmate, to a meal? You can go shopping after eating, or I can send you there. There's really no need, Uncle Tang. Besides, at Tang Xiao's and my age, it's more important to consider our studies. Tang Xiao's father was an old man in the business world in his 40s or 50s. He was also the director of a large company. He did not expect that a 17 or 18-year-old girl would block his words. However, after all, the Tang family and the Shi family were still working together. He had always been afraid that something would go wrong. As expected, that brat Tang Xiao still failed to stabilize this young lady. They had just become boyfriend and girlfriend, but they suddenly broke up without even a splash. Are we still leaving? Zhao Xiaoqing urged anxiously. Let's go now, Shi Nianj said and smiled politely at the man in the car. Uncle, we'll be leaving first. Without waiting for Tang Xiao's father to say anything, she pulled Zhao Xiaoqing into the street on the right side of the school. Chapter 1450. On the side street, Zhao Xiaoqing tried on 2 student dresses. She liked them both very much, but she was conflicted about which color to choose. Shi Nianj helped her look at them for a long time, and finally suggested that she choose the light purple one. Although Zhao Xiaoqing usually wore a pair of glasses and looked quiet and obedient, she was very fair and did not choose the color of her clothes. This kind of light purple dress did not look good on anyone with slightly darker skin, but she could handle it. After the two of them bought clothes, they went to the side to look at the snacks. Zhao Xiaoqing was addicted to the barbecue on the street. Her family belonged to a moderately well-off family. She had normal pocket money, and would not be short of money, but she was not the kind of rich and noble who could casually spend money. Therefore, even if she saw the mutton skewer she liked, she could only buy 2, but she would give Shi Nianj one to eat together. Every time Shi Nianj said that she wanted to treat her, Zhao Xiaoqing would not agree. She firmly said that even if she became friends with the princess, she could not let the princess use money to step on her head. No matter what, they had to maintain equality. Otherwise, if one side paid too much for a long time, the friendship would definitely tilt. It would be unfair to everyone. Shi Nianj did not mind. After all, she could do whatever she wanted. She had eaten these street food before, but when she ran in with Zhao Xiaoqing today, she strangely felt good. Now, even when she ate the mutton skewers, she felt especially excited. Was that person really Tang Xiao's father? Zhao Xiaoqing had just bitten off a piece of meat from the mutton skewer and asked vaguely. Shi Nianj also answered vaguely. An. Tang Xiao really couldn't coax you back, so he asked his father for help? No, he's a little scummy, but he's not that stupid. Shi Nianj took a tissue and wiped her mouth. All along, the Tang family has wanted to have a long-term cooperation with the Shi family. I think I've heard my parents mention this before. It's just that there's a very good project, and the Tang family wants to make money from it. Once, Uncle Tang came to my house to deliver something and saw me. Later, he somehow found out about my age in school. He also found out that I actually know his son, so he treated us to a few meals and match-made us a few times. So you guys were brought together? I thought the two of you were in love freely. It turns out that what others say about rich families not having true free love and having arranged marriages like before is true? It's not that exaggerated. It's just the right time, the right place, and the right people to be together. We don't have any feelings for each other. We just like each other. Plus, our parents have some cooperation, so we just dated for 2 months. After speaking, Shi Nianj threw away the bamboo stick in her hand. She turned to buy 2 glasses of water and returned. She handed one to Zhao Xiaoqing. Tang Xiao has nothing to do with me. In the past we met by coincidence, so don't look at me. Xiaoqing. Shi Nianj paused in her drinking and glanced at Zhao Xiaoqing. In the afternoon, when the teacher was helping her with the lesson, he had asked her how she had built a good relationship with Qin Siding. At that time, she had only said that they had been sitting together for a long time, and would occasionally exchange a few words, so they were considered familiar. Now that she was being said this, was it so obvious that she liked Qin Siding? Then Qin Siding would definitely be able to tell. But he actually went to the school library. Zhao Xiaoqing was drinking water. She did not know why Shi Nianj was suddenly spinning around happily. She was about to call out to her, but Shi Nianj had already walked to a small stall by the side to look at all kinds of couple accessories. Zhao Xiaoqing. Eldest miss, isn't it too early? The wolf has just seen the meat. He doesn't even know if he can eat it. Are you even going to prepare the bowls and chopsticks? She knew that Qin Sighting had gone out for a competition a few days ago, and had returned yesterday, so she would definitely go to school today. She would definitely not skip class. Early in the morning, Shi Nianj bought a few glass bottles of warm milk from the fresh milk shop outside the school, and put them in her school bag. Right now the weather was just right. It was neither cold nor hot. Some girls in the school were still wearing summer clothes, and had an autumn school uniform jacket draped over them. Shi Nianj, on the other hand, had long changed into a long-sleeved shirt and trousers. Her shoulder-length hair was casually tied up, and there were some natural bangs on her forehead. Her school bag was slightly heavy because of the few bottles of milk in it. She carried it on one shoulder, and held the bag strap on her shoulder with her hand. She walked directly into the surging crowd of students. When she entered the class, she saw that her dear deskmate had already arrived. After all, she had been delayed for a while when she bought the milk. It was almost time for morning self-study. Qin Sighting was rarely late. She walked over with a smile that was as bright as the morning sun. She saw that the tall and thin boy was still wearing a white t-shirt inside, and the same school uniform as her outside. Perhaps because Qin Sighting was tall and had a good figure, such an ordinary school uniform jacket on him made him look like a handsome male celebrity in those branded sportswear advertisements. Looking at it this way, Shi Nianj inexplicably felt that the school uniform on her body was becoming more and more beautiful. No wonder she, who rarely obediently wore school uniforms in the past, had been wearing them more and more frequently recently. And, because sitting together like this, they looked like a couple. Before she sat down, she took out a bottle of milk from her school bag, and placed it on Qin Sighting's desk. He did not move, and she was not in a hurry to speak. She sat down and raised her eyes to see that when the form teacher came in to check on the morning self-study, she took out a book from her bag and whispered, "I just bought it. It's still warm." At such an early hour, the teacher had just arrived at work. After entering the class to take a look, he returned to the office to prepare for class. From time to time, the quiet classroom would be filled with all sorts of quiet conversations. How Xiuxia, who was behind her, gently poked her with his pen. When she turned back, he glanced at the milk on Qin Sighting's desk and mouthed, "Where's mine?" Zhao Xiaoqing nudged Hao Xiuxia's arm with the corner of her book and glared at him, telling him not to be so shameless. Shi Nianj was amused. She took out 2 more bottles from her bag and gave them to them. She whispered, "I definitely won't leave you behind. There's a straw here. Open it and drink it yourself." Hao Xiuxia did not expect that there would really be one for him. He immediately took the straw and chuckled. Zhao Xiaoqing also took it in surprise and glanced at it, asking, "Why doesn't Almighty Qin have a straw?" Chapter 1451. Shi Nianj immediately took out a bottle of milk and 2 straws from her bag. She knew that Qin Sighting would definitely not take the initiative to drink it. She reached out and took the milk on his table back. She opened her hand and placed the straw in front of him. Then, "To thank you for helping me choose the book yesterday. Don't you think my way of thanking you and my service are very inappropriate? Can you give me some face again?" Qin Sighting glanced at the milk she pushed over. He did not speak or look at her, but he picked it up and drank it. Shi Nianj did not expect it to go so smoothly, although she felt that he did not hate her. When she saw that he really drank it this time, she was so happy that her heart raced. She looked in his direction for a long time, and saw that after drinking the milk, he still picked up the water on the table to take a sip. She accidentally saw his Adam's apple moving as he drank the water. Was an 18-year-old boy's Adam's apple already so sexy and good-looking? Shi Nianj stared at the way he drank water and muttered, "Did you drink milk in the past?" "No." Qin Sighting did not look at her, but his voice was indifferent as he replied, "Usually, when you're at home in the morning, won't the auntie at home force you to drink milk? I remember that ever since I could remember, I would be forced to drink a glass of milk by the auntie every morning. Even if she doesn't force me to drink it, I have to buy some. Otherwise, I feel like something's missing, she muttered softly. It was actually a very boring topic, but she simply wanted to take the opportunity to talk to him, even if it was just one more sentence. Qin Sighting was silent for a moment before saying, I don't like the taste. I rarely drink it. Ah, you don't like it? Shi Nianj glanced at the empty milk bottle. Then why did you? Qin Sighting did not answer. He turned to look at the school bag she had specially used to store the milk. This is the last time. Don't buy it next time. Although it sounded like a refusal and an order, there was also a hint of gentleness in it. Shi Nianj's heart pounded for a long time. When she returned to her senses, Qin Sighting had already focused on solving the math problems and ignored her. She pinched the bottle of milk that she hadn't drunk, turned her head, and leaned on the table to slowly ease and calm down her emotions. She didn't dare to raise her head to show too much of her abnormality, but her face was indeed a little hot at this moment. She seemed to be able to hear her idol's voice that was a little softer than usual. This is the last time, don't buy it next time. How could she be so gentle? Huh? Was he in a good mood today? He didn't keep a cold face the whole time? Or was it because he had long known that she liked him? Yesterday, he had heard her say that he was good-looking, so he wasn't the cold and aloof type that would break a girl's heart. Would he be gentler to a girl who admired him? But that wasn't right. In the entire school, the number of girls who liked him and had a crush on him could circle the school building 3 times. But he had never smiled at any of them. It was said that there was once a class beauty who chased after him from the 1st floor to the 5th floor of the school, just to get his phone number. But she still couldn't get him to look back, let alone his phone number. Would she be able to get it? Because we're deskmates. Slowly, after a long time, could she save his phone number in her phone? After finally obtaining her idol's cold treatment, she seemed to have a new goal. She only occasionally saw Uncle Qin. Auntie Xiang would also go over to prepare delicious food for her when she was in school every day. At other times, Shi Nianj was already used to being independent. If there was nothing necessary, she didn't want to return to the Shi family. She only wanted to stay in Lishui Villa. After all, her parents had yet to return to China. Hearing that it was the weekend, and that she still planned to stay there, Uncle Qin did not force her. After giving a few instructions, he hung up. It was precisely because it was Friday that Zhao Xiaoqing thought that Shi Nianj would have a chauffeur to pick her up today. So she left early. Shi Nianj unhurriedly packed up her books and papers and went out. When she walked out of the school, she habitually walked toward the parking lot. When she realized that she had just told Uncle Qin not to pick her up, she was about to turn around to take a taxi back to Lishui Villa, when she suddenly saw a few boys dressed as hooligans from another school walking in this direction with cigarettes in one hand and baseball bats in the other. As a girl, she didn't want to watch so much. It was common for hooligans to fight in and out of school. She only took a glance, and was about to walk further away, when she suddenly saw Qin Sighting walking out. He had clearly left the class earlier than her. Why did he only come out now? It seemed like the student cadres were often kept behind by the teachers, or the director for questioning. They didn't have much time. Qin Sighting was holding a black one-handed bag in one hand, and answering a phone with the other. He had only taken 2 steps when he suddenly stopped. He looked forward at the hooligans who had already thrown away their cigarettes, and were surrounding him. Seeing that he was surrounded by those people, Shi Nianj's hair instantly stood on end. What was going on? Were these people here to cause trouble for him? Who did Qin Sighting offend? Was it because he won the physics competition 2 days ago, and was taller than the students from the neighboring schools? Was that why he was being targeted? Was he being targeted? Before she could come up with a countermeasure, her legs had already gone beyond the range of her brain's control. She quickly rushed over and directly ran behind those hooligans. She even pushed the 2 people in front of her, who were holding baseball bats, aside. Excuse me. She ran too fast and pushed the 2 hooligans forward. Before they could react, they saw a girl suddenly rush over. She stepped forward and grabbed the boy's arm. Without a word, she dragged him out of the crowd. What happened just now? I don't know. A girl suddenly ran over. She was very strong and suddenly pushed me. I almost F***king fell. Where is she? She ran away. She ran in and dragged someone away. I don't know what she's doing. She's probably just passing by. Ignore her. F***ck. Continue looking for Zhao Hu. That brat crippled one of my brother's legs yesterday. If I don't remove his arm, I'll write my name backwards. As the crowd walked away, Nianj had already dragged Qin Sighting's arm 20 to 30 meters away. When she felt that those people did not seem to be chasing after her, she stopped and turned back to look, panting. She then looked at Qin Sighting, who she had dragged all the way here. She looked him up and down. Are you all right? Qin Sighting's handsome brows were still cold. He glanced at her hand that was still holding his arm and raised his brows, indicating for her to let go. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.